Works Committee meeting to order. It's Wednesday, July 1st, 2026. We're going to, at 6:11 p.m. Wow. Great. Thanks everyone for coming. Can we get the roll, please?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Present.
Councilman Andujar,
Present.
Councilwoman Vaziri,
Present.
Councilman Capapiano,
Present.
Councilman Bonanno,
Here.
Council Vice President Haroyan,
Present.
Council President Wall.
Here.
Okay, I'm going to ask if there's any objection to taking the agenda items out of order. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move forward. Approval of meeting minutes this evening, there are none. And I'm going to offer public comment first. We are going to do public comment in chambers this evening. You have to come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 4 minutes to comment. This is for docketed items only. This is for items that are on the agenda. So anyone in chambers who'd like to come up and speak on docketed items, please come up.
Good evening. My name is Robert Ferry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
My name is Robert Ferry. I live at 2426 Cranston Street in Cranston. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm here to speak on the right-of-way on 1525 Cranston Street. And I want to make it perfectly clear to everyone that's here, I am not here to make friends, nor am I here to help anyone on their campaign tonight. It just so happens to be that there was a fountain on the right-of-way at 1525 Cranston Street in front of St. Mary's Church. It was donated to the church some 25 years ago. At some point in time, and no one seems to know when, Mayor Hopkins says that the city took over the responsibility for that fountain, which was owned by the church. And he used the fact that because it was a city right-of-way, the city was responsible for the fountain. He claimed in an interview that the fountain didn't work anymore. It was old, dilapidated, and it didn't get cared for. So he decided that it would become part of the Knightsville Rehabilitation Project, and the city would buy a new fountain at the cost of $173,000. About a month ago, when construction started in that part of 1525 Cranston Street right away, I had 4 different people call me up and ask me a simple question. Is the city paying for that fountain? I said, I really don't know if the city's paying for that fountain. So I looked into it, made a few phone calls. Sure enough, I found out that the city was paying for the fountain. And you know how furious I was about that. I contacted the media. Perhaps you saw my interview with Brian Crandall. I think we all know why this fountain project the city is paying for. It's part of the mayor's project in Knightsville. I think it's just plain wrong. It's another vanity project for the mayor, which is costing the city taxpayers $173,000. At one point in time, the mayor had everybody believing that all the work in Knightsville was being paid by grants, which is not true. Only about 25% of the money being spent in Knightsville is being paid by federal grants, give or take. Okay, our taxpayers deserve better. I don't know why all of you have been silent about this. I certainly haven't been silent about it, especially you, Richard Campopiano, who's on the Holy Name Society. I think you're even the president of the Holy Name Society of that church. This is about right and wrong. This is not about politics. The bottom line is that people are now watching because we're fed up with this frivolous, wasteful spending, and that's all it is. How can you sit there and think that the city paying for a fountain in front of a church is the right thing to do. How could anybody believe that? There's 35 churches in this city. Should they all get a fountain?
30 seconds.
This is not personal. This is not politics. This is just measuring right from wrong. You may say it's too late. You may say there's nothing you can do about it. There is something you can do about it. You can speak up and you can say it's wrong because you know it's wrong, and grow a backbone. Stop letting the mayor tell you what to do. It's wrong that we're putting that fountain in front of that church, and you'll never convince me or any of these people otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on docketed items? Please state your name and address.
My name is John Paglarini, 7 Camden Lane.
4 minutes.
Understood. Here this evening on the Verizon matter. We were at the council meeting, I believe it was the 16th, and they were informed to give us notice. We all received notice, however, it's defective notice. It went to Cranston, Massachusetts, but we got it. However, it did not state the date and time of this meeting. It just said, oh, by the way, we're doing a construction project on your street. It did not have this meeting as being noticed. So we have 3 out of 33 homes here this evening because it's defective. Additionally, I spoke with Rhode Island Commerce because the documents that were provided to us have a box on the first page that say this is part of the subsidized broadband grant. This is a federal grant that Rhode Island Commerce signed a contract with the United States Treasury. Verizon was awarded the contract, and it's supposed to serve underserved or areas that have no internet. Our street is currently serviced by Cox Cable and T-Mobile. Commerce says they did not do a speed test on our street. This is for streets that have less than 100 megabytes of upload and download speed. Last speed test I did, I was in excess of 200 at my house. This is wrong. This is about a grant that should be going to underserved areas where children need to do their homework. We've got Cox Cable. Yes, their price is outrageous. We have the option of T-Mobile. And it would be nice, and there's some residents that want Verizon on our street. It's wrong that this grant is being utilized. If they want to come in and pay for it, and the city approves it, well, there'll be other neighbors speaking about what happens when you dig up our driveways and everything in a mature street that's now 7 years old. And this could have been planned properly then. But to utilize, for the city to approve this request is making you part and parcel with knowledge that this is wrong. This grant should not be used on a street that has 33 $1 million houses on it. It doesn't make any sense. This belongs in another area. This, look at the districts that are really poor in Cranston. It doesn't belong on our street, and we're currently served. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on docketed items? Name and address, please, in 4 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Thomas Wojcik, and I live at 11 Hall Place in Cranston. A couple weeks ago, I attended a ceremony at Stillhouse Cove. It was a dedication for a beautiful marble bench that was put there to commemorate the participation of Cranston and what took place at Stillhouse Cove regarding enslaved people that were captured.
All right, is this for a docketed item?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Come to find out that the bench was paid for by donations. Obviously, it doesn't come to the cost of $173,000. But people who cared about it, really cared about that, came up with the money to pay for it. And then a few weeks later, I hear about us spending $173,000 for a fountain in front of a Catholic church. And I said, how the hell did that happen? Our budget is broke. We increased tax rates and revenues on all of our citizens, but yet we found $173,000 to pay for a broken down fountain. It irritates me that the fountain wasn't taken care of, and now it has to be rebuilt. Whose fault is that? Who's going to take care of it after this? Who is going to own it after this? This council has lost credibility. You didn't take responsibility at all for the budget, and you're not taking responsibility, and you're looking the other way for this. I agree with Mr. Ferrari. You may not be able to do anything about this, but your silence is very loud. It says a lot. First of all, it says something about your lack of integrity, your lack of moral courage to speak out against this mayor. Your silence is deadening. Your credibility is lost. And I will never vote for any of you, for whatever position you should run, ever, ever again. Thank you.
Thank you. Name, address, 4 minutes.
Hi, Andrew Bourne, 115 Camden Lane. I am here also to speak about the Verizon docketed item. In addition to the 2 issues that Mr. Pagliarini brought up about the insufficient public notice and the improper use of the grant funds, I would also like to point out that within the plans that are submitted by Verizon, that they have inaccurate details which were relayed to me through a Verizon engineer directly through email, where he intended to use a less invasive means and methods to accomplish this work. A project manager or someone of that sort from Verizon has since reversed course on that, told me he could not guarantee those methods. So right now we are not in agreement, or does what the engineer is telling us in agreement with the plans that are submitted to you. There is also a lack of detail as far as how they're going to protect the nearby wetlands and the wetland buffer zone that is nearby, and also the traffic management plan. They're going to trench across that street 4 times without any management of traffic. That road is only 22 feet wide and is very tight to get through as is. I don't think that any fire truck would get through under those circumstances. So for that reason, I ask you to deny. Thank you.
Chambers want to speak on docketed matters? Address, 4 minutes, please.
Sure. My name is Ryan Meehan Wright. I reside at 31 Cedarwood Drive in Cranston. I don't like public speaking at all, but I felt as though I needed to be here just because I was outraged when I saw the article about we're using our city tax dollars while this city is in a financial crisis to pay for a fountain at a church. That's separate. The church could fundraise for that, other things, but it should not be our tax dollars, especially when a whole budget crisis is going on, threatening to take money away from the senior center, CCAP, public schools. Like, I just think it's asinine, and I just hope that somebody takes accountability. Someone has the courage to speak up, and somebody uses their fiduciary duty to protect the taxpayers of Cranston. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in chambers? Okay, we're going to go to, oh. No. Okay, we're moving to online. Is there anyone online, Tom?
A reminder to please raise your hand. Jarrett Goodwin.
State your name and address, please, and you have 4 minutes.
Hello, Jarrett Goodwin, 40 Horizon Drive, Cranston, District 4. I just also wanted to mention the um, the insufficient funds for this project, for the fountain project. And also, I also wanted to comment on the pool issue. We need to figure it out how to manage that. Like this seems unreasonable for.
Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
I- Pool item is related to rentals only.
Yes, the pool rental issue, the pool rental concern.
Okay,
Is-
okay, go ahead on that. Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that like we realize how we're going to govern that or police that. From my perspective, and I apologize, I recently had a stroke, so I need an extra few minutes. But like the pool issue concern, I don't know how we're going to police that, especially considering I'm from District 4, and we have a lot of pools. I don't personally own a pool, but we have a lot of pools, and that there are going to be a lot of, people like in the pools. Like you don't, I don't know how we're going to police that activity to be in the pool like at certain hours. Like, so I think that should be left up to law enforcement. And that's what I have to say about that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online who would like to speak on docketed items?
There is no other public comment online.
Okay, I'm going to do last call. What? Okay. We're going to close public comment. Okay, and we are going to head to committee business matters carried over. This is for the petition 1A7YA2G from Verizon New England requesting permission to replace 1 2-inch conduit approximately 4,000 feet and 19 handholds starting at pole P6 from the corner of Hope Road in Camden Lane and then continue along Camden Lane and Kendall Court. I put in a request to the solicitor's office. I don't know if the solicitor wants to come up and answer the question that regarding notification from Verizon.
What's the question?
So what are the requirements for Verizon to notify abutters?
There are none.
Okay, so Verizon was doing it as a courtesy to the residents. They do not have any requirements under this.
All I can tell you is from a legal standpoint, there's no legal requirement under state law or under our ordinances for notice to abutters. What Verizon chose or chooses to do, that I can't answer.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say I appreciate the members of the public that came up and spoke this evening. I absolutely have concerns for inaccurate plans and construction methods. I do work in the field and it's concerning that they are proposing to do construction in a certain way. And now it's being told to us that that way is possibly not applicable to this project. I also am a wetland scientist, so I am upset that they did not propose any erosion controls that should be under their best management practices operation and maintenance plan. So I'm sad to hear about that. And I do support the public comment that I got this evening. Yes, yes, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to deny this.
Second.
This is for low-income areas, not for million-dollar houses.
All right, we're going to go to discussion. Vice President Haroyan, go ahead.
I think it's really sad that this is put in for lower income areas. And then we're told there's $1 million houses. We have sections of the city where people cannot afford to be connected to the internet. So I'm wholeheartedly denying this, and I'm asking everyone to think about this.
Okay, Councilman Andujar, I saw your hand up first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to reference to whatever Councilman Ritz, I believe that's your area. So I will support whatever your decision and whatever you decide is best for that community.
Yeah, Councilman Capapiano?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with both my colleagues. This wasn't done right from the very beginning, and we very rarely get constituents out to argue against such a project like this. So I don't think it's right for the community, and I don't think it's right for them. So I will be joining you in denying this.
Okay, Councilman Bonanno?
I would like, if it's okay with the chair, I think there's somebody from Verizon here. And if they come up, I would like to ask them questions about that grant and see what the issue is. I mean, I believe what the constituents are saying, but my question, I guess, to them would be, if the grant is for lower, I forgot what terminology Attorney Pagliarini used, but if it was essentially for lower income areas without access to fast internet, why would Verizon want to put it in this neighborhood and use that money to put it in this neighborhood? That's question one. And question two would be, if they pay for it themselves, then what? How could we get the neighborhood appeased as well as Verizon doing it the right way? So I would like to ask them that question
Okay.
if possible.
If there's
Through
no
the chair.
objection from the committee, I will ask Verizon to come up.
We
City
just have a
Solicitor.
motion to, if you're going to do that, to reopen public hearing then.
Okay. Can I get a motion to reopen public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Can I get the roll, please?
Councilwoman Graziano?
Yes.
Councilman Andujar?
Yes.
Councilwoman Vaziri?
Yes.
Councilman Campapiano? Councilman Bonanno?
Yes.
Council Vice President Haroyan?
Yes.
Council President Wall?
Yes.
Can I ask something before we begin
Sure.
to the solicitor?
Yep.
Seeing that we opened up public comment, does that mean we can't ask questions back and forth?
Well, he's from Verizon, I understand. Yeah, I think you can ask questions. That would be permissible because he's from, I'm assuming these are
He's the applicant.
technical questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yes. Name is Ross Billadu, 21 Oxford Road, Mansfield, Massachusetts.
Okay, so did you hear Bonanno's questions and are you able to answer them, or would you like him to restate the questions?
I can answer
Okay,
them to a
great.
certain extent, sure. Is my understanding, the way this was presented to me is that this grant is, yes, it is to build out communications, et cetera, broadband in lower income, lower served communities. But it also builds out these types of projects in communities that don't have a choice for high-speed internet broadband. So it's also my understanding that those areas are selected by the state, maybe not necessarily that broadband initiative, but some state level has selected and gave Verizon direction to pursue this project.
So if I may, through the chair.
Yes.
Thank you for answering. At this point in my career, I'm kind of like a proof guy. Like I would want to see something that states that because, and not that I don't believe you, I'm sure you're telling me what you've been told. It's a question of when somebody tells somebody who tells somebody who tells us, I want to see it backed up.
Sure.
So, the second part of my question was, how do we work this with the neighborhood? Because I understand there's a balance here. There's always a balance in government, right? What the public wants and what's best for the community, as well as, I don't want to be Cranston is closed for business. I don't want to champion that either. So how do we get to a point where the neighborhood is going to be satisfied, Verizon's going to be satisfied?
That is a great question. I'm not sure I can answer that standing here right now in front of you. I'm not the kind of person who's gonna, broker deals, et cetera, between private parties, cities. I'm a representative to bring these matters before a board and get them approved, denied, et cetera. So I unfortunately can't answer that specific question.
I'm going to offer a suggestion and then I'll be
Okay.
done. Yeah.
Oh,
Go- Yeah, I'm going to offer a suggestion if that's all right. Yeah. I was the chair of the zoning board for, I think, 4 years, and I was on it for 7 before running for office. And when we dealt with these types of situations where the residents and in most cases it was a developer or somebody who was requesting a variance or approval for something were at odds, instead of outright denying something, I always encouraged either the representatives, attorneys, or the representative themselves to organize a community meeting and essentially properly notice these folks. There are only 3 here. Have a community meeting somewhere and discuss it with them. Have your PR people come in. You're the technical dude, right? You come in and explain what's going on. I don't necessarily feel as though the folks in that neighborhood do not want Verizon on their street. My feeling and what I'm hearing is they want to know what's going on, when it's going to happen, and how it's going to affect their property. And if they have that information, and if we have that information, we can make a better judgment on what's going to happen. So I don't necessarily think we should approve it today. I don't necessarily think we should deny it today either, because if we deny it, you got to wait a long time. And I don't think I really don't think that's what these folks are wanting, just outright deny it. So I think we have to vote on the main motion first, but my selected path will be to table it again, have a community meeting with these folks, right? Properly notice them. And, if 3 people show up to the community meeting and you can tell that to us later and nobody really gives a hoot what's going on in the neighborhood, all right, fine, then we know that, right? But if 49 people show up and they give you your opinion and when we discuss it again, there's a clear path. I think that's what we're trying to accomplish. Everybody to be satisfied. And also, I want the proof. If that's the road that ultimately this council decides to go on, I want to see the proof in the grant and how it was determined that this neighborhood qualifies for a grant for underserved areas, because that doesn't compute for me in my broadband up here. All right. So that's my suggestion. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say my concerns with these petitions that come before us, and you'll hear me. Next one is that we're not provided with enough information to make an informed decision. And I think this is one of those cases. I would love to review your best management practices and how the proposed work is going to be accomplished. So that is definitely one of my issues, is that I need a complete package of exactly what the construction entails. I'm looking over, looks like Councilman Ritz would like to say something as well.
I just want to say just a couple things. So this is my area, so I've been getting the calls on it. Besides these 3 folks that are here, I think I total of 7 folks that reached out to me, and like Councilman Bonanno said, they were okay with having it there. They just have some questions which were stated tonight, concerns about the driveways, if they cut into it, how that would be there. They're just looking for clearer things. I had a similar thought of maybe we could do like a little community meeting there. It's a unique small plat with 33 houses in there. We could quickly probably notify all 33 of them, and we could have a conversation with them too. But I also, I feel bad you kind of being vilified here a little bit. We do it. I mean, most of the folks there are in favor of it. It's just they do have general concerns of how it'll look, and that's a newer neighborhood, so they're concerned about the aesthetic of that neighborhood.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. I can't see you over there,
know,
so
you gotta
maybe
get
like a little
sunglasses.
tap. President Wall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would tend to probably lean into the same idea that Councilman Andahar has. Generally, when there's something controversial in someone's ward, I kind of lean into the person who represents that ward. But if I'm hearing Councilman Ritz correctly, Councilman, were you inclined to continue this and have a meeting of some sort, like Councilman Bonanno suggested? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I'm in favor if you'd be open to that. We could have a meeting with the residents there. Like I said, it's a small group, so we could probably notify them pretty quickly, even door to door. and continue it for now, even if it's this meeting or the next meeting, and go from there too. I think the grant also raises some concerns. You know, Councilwoman Harorian had some concerns with that, with denying it, which I'm in favor of too. But I think if we could flush that out a little bit more and talk to all the residents there and answer some of their questions. The folks here tonight had technical ones. Some of the other folks had more kind of entry-level questions there about the impact on the driveway and those pieces of it.
So, and let me just finish up.
Okay.
The grant, and I wasn't aware, as Vice President Haroyan pointed out, that this is designed for low-income housing, and you reiterated that in your comments, that this was a grant for low. I mean, how do you reconcile $1 million plus homes and low income together? So that's a good question. You said it was recommended by the state. So I mean, that's a question that when you do have that community meeting, that you probably should come together. So I'll favor whatever Councilman Ritz says. I relent my time.
So sorry, just a minute. I think continuing is the best choice that I would say right now, and then if it gets to that point, we can always deny it for the meeting.
So two things. If we still have public comment open, I'll take you. If we still have public comment open after I call on Councilman Andujar, I would actually like one representative from that area to come up and see if that is an appropriate solution for now. But I'll take Councilman Andujar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what's going on here is the state has a radius map that probably expands 100 miles. And with that 100 miles, Verizon found the loophole to find this area that has houses the size of square foot lots in my ward. So I think that's what they're using to get into the neighborhood. So I applaud what Councilwoman Haroyan's doing, because she's advocating for my ward, the less fortunate in my ward. But at the same time, you know, I do have to respect what Councilman Ritz wants to do. So Councilman, whatever you decide to do, I will support.
Vice President Haroyan.
I just wanted to be on record. This is the second time Verizon's been here. We were not provided with the grant or the information. This is for lower income areas. There is nothing low income about Camden. As we're sitting here tonight, I just looked up the houses. The least appraised one is close to 600,000. I don't know if the state did a bad job. I don't know if it was Verizon. I am against continuing this, and I'll vote against continuing this. We have plenty of low-income areas in this city, and the communication should have been better. Somebody from government relations maybe should have reached out to everybody after the first meeting. If those people wanted this in Verizon, they pay to have it up there. They don't need to use grant money to pay for it. We have plenty of low-income money that people that can't provide for their own kids to have internet, to do their schoolwork. I'm fully against this continuing.
Okay. Anyone else on the council before Councilman Capabiano?
Thank you, Chair. I hear I agree with Councilman Bernardo and Councilman Ritz. Maybe if we crafted the motion to say, table it until such time as we satisfy the neighbors' needs, and also they also satisfy that we're not using up the whole grant for just this one area. Maybe it's a portion of it, and then we can still focus on other areas. I don't know if we can do that, but I hate to get rid of it altogether if that would help. So.
Okay, Councilman Bonanno.
I just have a technical question. So are we, let's say for the sake of argument that there was a motion on the table to approve it. Are we approving the project being done in the street and they're cutting up the roads and all this other stuff? Or are we approving all the back part of it, like the grant and everything else? Because how they pay for it, I don't know that we have jurisdiction over that. So my question is, you know, what is before us?
So my opinion, and we can have the solicitor come up, is that we're approving the construction and the allowance of working in the right of way.
Yeah, the financing has nothing to do with this. This is simply, it's a permit, like any other permit, just to perform construction on the road.
But is there criteria set around this that we need to stay within certain parameters?
It's only within your discretion, and I believe it's presented to Public Works, so whatever technical requirements they have, they'll review it.
Okay.
And
President Wall.
if we, I'm sorry, I just have one follow-up. If we deny it, we're denying the work. So there's got to be a certain amount of time that needs to elapse before it can be reconsidered, right?
City
If I could intervene, just on a procedural note, I know a main motion was made to deny, I believe. I believe there was a second, discussion started. I don't believe, at least I didn't hear any votes one way or the other. Okay. If the matter is to be continued, if someone is of a mind to do that, that would be a subsidiary motion. That has to be made now and voted on. Depending on the outcome, you don't need to reach the main motion until the next time this is on. So basically, a motion to continue would be in order now, because you're going to lose that. If you start to vote on the denial and it is denied, then you either got to do reconsideration or you got to wait a year or whatever.
Is
That's all I'm
it
saying.
12 months?
Yes. Right.
That's the requirement?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to continue.
Hold on. So no
Okay, withdraw. Yeah, that's fine.
motion fails. Okay. Councilwoman Vaziri.
So if we do deny it, hello, can you hear me in this mic? Yeah, okay. So if we do deny it, do we lose this totally or will it go elsewhere in the city? The
As
grant
far
money,
as
The work,
The
would it be
work.
reassigned to a different location?
or is it totally gone?
we're petitioning to do these streets as a part of this project.
Okay, they don't know.
This grant was given, these streets among many streets across the state. Does that grant money get used elsewhere? I have no idea.
Okay,
Does this project get rebuilt in another neighborhood? Possibly, I have no idea.
Okay, I'm going to welcome one representative from the area to come up for public comment and speak briefly after the discussion. Thank you.
Again, for the record, John Pagliarini. I got to say, formerly I was the parliamentarian of the Rhode Island State Senate. That is some acrobatic work. There's a motion on the floor. It does not, in my opinion. You got to vote on that motion, withdraw that motion, but you can't hear another motion that's going to supersede it. I'm sorry. From our perspective, this is not something we want to do all summer. We don't want to keep having meetings on this. Are there some neighbors that want Verizon choice? Absolutely. Does anybody want their driveway dug up? Does anybody want their sprinkler systems dug up? Does anybody want their trees dug up? No. Verizon has twice improperly noticed us or failed to notice us. They haven't done their due diligence as far as the best management practices. Put us out of our misery and deny it and let them come back in a year. It's a $54 million grant from the federal government that identified 10 communities. Tell them it's your preference on the denial that they look at something else in the city of Cranston, but it really shouldn't be our street.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Vice President Horan. If she's not going to withdraw her motion, we are going to take a vote. Okay, go ahead. Can I get a roll call?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
On consent of Councilman Ritz, yes.
Councilwoman Vaziri,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Bonanno,
Yes.
Council Vice President Horan,
Yes.
Council President Wall.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion is it's denied. Okay, moving on. Request for Rhode Island Department of Transportation for a permit to allow construction within 25 feet of exterior boundaries of a historic cemetery, State Farm Cemetery number 1. I think Director Correo is here. He's going to briefly speak One of the questions that I noted was, it's sort of similar to Verizon, where I have a concern about this petition because I don't have any information how they're going to determine they're not within 25 feet. So I think I'm going to be recommending this is continued unless somebody from Rhode Island DOT is here. If not, I would just like to hear from Director Correo first. Thank you.
Good evening, Frank Correo, Director of Public Works. Madam Chair, members of the council, I'm not sure what the Department of Transportation is looking for. I guess they were not notified, or maybe they did not, or were not aware of the fact that they needed to attend this evening's meeting. I'm sure they would be willing to if we put, or the Public Works Committee puts a request out to them to have someone attend the meeting to explain what it is they're doing, why they're asking for this permit. And then based on that, you would be more informed and be able to make a sound, informed decision regarding the permit that's being applied right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm gonna solicitor. I had asked what the committee needs to make a decision on this and what potential legal impacts if the cemetery is in fact impacted, and how we can assure that it's not going to be impacted. I think we're responsible by issuing this permit that we need to make sure that it's not impacted. So solicitor, thank you.
Yes, so I did spend quite a bit of time researching this, and this is really involved. We're dealing with a couple of things here. One is the Rhode Island General Laws, which comes under Title 23, which applies to historic cemeteries in general. But there is also the Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission, which has its own rules and regulations. And those rules and regulations are very specific in terms of what an applicant needs to do and present to a city council before a permit to alter an historic cemetery area can be granted. It would take me, honestly, it would take me an hour to go through everything now. What I was thinking of doing perhaps is to send to each of you a opinion, basically a legal opinion, just highlighting the basic fundamentals requirements that need to be met, and they are substantial. And it also involves the involvement not only of this council, but this requires an archaeological survey. I don't know if that was done. There's a lot I don't know in terms of what's been submitted. I would need to see, perhaps I could speak with the director as to exactly what was submitted, because there are requirements that have to be submitted with the application. I don't know if those requirements were met until I see the application. So I think it's a good idea to continue this. It's going to take a lot of due diligence before I can even give you an answer. But the magic, if you want to call it that, dividing line here, the magic number is 25 feet. And I can tell you that the main concern is this: because these cemeteries are so old, over time, through a combination of natural processes and human intervention, the boundaries of the cemeteries are almost impossible now to define. So what the state law, as well as the commission, wants to avoid is, and where they came up with 25 feet, I don't know, but they want to make certain that if remains have spread beyond the boundaries of the cemetery as it was originally established, they don't want those remains disturbed, which is why an archaeological survey should be done, unless the applicant can demonstrate, and I don't know how they're going to do that without some type of a survey, that the area where they're proposing to do the work does not contain any type of remains. So there's a lot here.
So I appreciate that. And this has been a real concern for me since it's been on our agenda, and I appreciate that. So if the solicitor could send us all that information so we have it for the next meeting. I'm going to go around and see, I'm going to take Dan, he said, President Wall.
It sounded like you wanted a motion to continue. So I was going to just make a motion to continue.
Okay, yes.
Second.
Okay, great. Any discussion? Okay, may I please get the roll?
Councilwoman Graziano,
Yes.
Councilman Andujar,
Yes.
Councilwoman Vaziri,
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano,
Yes.
Councilman Banano,
Yes.
Council Vice President Horoyan,
Yes.
Council President Wall.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, new matters before the committee. At this time, there are none. And on docket communications, the first one on the docket is Council President Wall and Councilwoman Graziano. We heard from the public on this docketed matter. So this is review of approved contract for reconstruction of the city's right-of-way at and around 1525 Cranston Street. This is related to the construction of the fountain, and I'll even add in the whole right-of-way. I think my understanding is one of the directors is going to speak this evening on that. Hold on,
Before he speaks,
Council President Wall.
Let me have it, seeing we put it on for our communication.
Okay.
We'll speak first and then we'll.
Okay, great.
All right?
Okay,
If-
do you want to?
If it pleases the chair.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Wall.
Thank you. So the solicitor's here, very good. Director Correo is here, very good. When this was brought to my attention through a news article, I hadn't even seen it yet, I'll tell you the truth. But I did go down to see where the fountain was, measure it up, where it's going to be constructed. So as it was pointed out, 1525 Cranston Street is where St. Mary's is. In front of that, there is a fountain, and there has been a fountain. There was a fountain, and I guess some 30 years ago, it was installed and it was donated. We have to go back a little bit and discuss the Knightsville revitalization project. This is phase 3 of the Knightsville revitalization project, and this is a portion of it, the $173,000. The project is paid out of 2 funding sources, all right? There is a federal grant, which was pointed out to me was $1.9 million. And it was also part of the capital improvement plan from 2025 that was passed by the Planning Commission and recommended for passage by the City Council during that budget cycle in April of 2025. The total that was allotted between those two funding sources was $4.7 million. When it went out to bid and it went before the Board of Contracts and Purchases, which went out on July the 15th, and it was accepted on July the 22nd of 2025 by unanimous vote. The bid went to, I have the document here somewhere, Narragansett Improvement Company for a little more than $3.5 million, which is under what we had from the 2 funding sources. Approximately what, $800,000 under it. I point that out for a reason, perhaps we'll get to it later. All right. 2 concerns have been brought to my attention. First, the optics of spending a great deal of money, $173,000 on a fountain, is certainly an issue, especially now in our current budget crisis. The optics, as several people have pointed out, of putting a fountain in front of one church, while there are, and I will correct the speaker in the audience, there's over 100 churches in the city of Cranston, and that's not counting other houses of worship as well. So your point is well taken, but there are actually more than that. When it was approved by the Planning Commission and the City Council in the spring of 2025, we weren't in the middle of a budget crisis. However, there was certainly concerns at that time about the money that was being spent in Knightsville in that project. The stamped concrete and various amenities that made the area look beautiful, but it also points out that there are a lot of sidewalks all over the city that aren't stamped, except for maybe a CCC thing that they put on in 1935 or 38 during the Great Depression. And I make that not as a joke, as a matter of truth. So the optics of this always caused a bit of an issue. However, optics aside, when the ground was broken, as I said, there was, when the planning board and the city council approved of those funding sources, there was no budget crisis, at least not at that time. When the Board of Contracts and Purchases, and that happened on the 22nd of July, 2025, we were trending at about a $4.9 million deficit. So the crisis was rearing its ugly head at that point, and it would get worse. And we're in a situation where it's far worse now. So once again, the optics are pretty bad. When the ground was broken earlier this year, maybe in late spring, we were in the midst of a terrible crisis that I would say in recent history, it's the worst, not the worst Cranston's ever seen. The question about the optics is this, and I ask my question this, and I'll ask this of the solicitor, if he's with, right? Now that we're in the middle of a crisis, is there anything, after I point out what we did, that we could stop? Solicitor, could we stop this, halt this project? Would you? Let me go back very quickly. I'll just reiterate what I said. It went to the Board of Contracts, and it was given from Board of Contracts $3.5 million. When it went before us, we were at about $4.9 million. When we broke ground earlier this year, we're well into a terrible budget crisis, looking at a high tax increase and a terrible year next year. My only question legally, does this council have any authority to stop it?
Well, first of all, the underlying factual predicate here seems to be, and this is no reflection on you or anyone else here, but that's your version of what took place. It's very difficult for me or any lawyer to give you a definitive legal opinion in the absence of an established factual record, a timeline of events as to what took place, when it took place, what votes were taken, what approvals were given. Because I'm sure the administration may have a different opinion as to the process that took place. So I'm not ducking the question, but I am very, very hesitant
Yeah.
all the time to answer a legal question when I don't have all the facts.
Let me simplify it a bit, if you don't mind, Solicitor Videcchio. Once a project has gone out to bid, any project, whatever it is, and it's gone out to bid, and it's gone through the proper, it was voted unanimously by the Board of Contracts and Purchases. And I'm sure, I don't know, I have never put in a fountain. I'm sure the price is fine, all right? But we're in a terrible place right now. Do we have the ability, the authority to say, stop, we don't have the money any longer? Do we have, because it's going to increase our debt service. And that's the question. It's not to throw any kind of curveball towards you.
I would have to say no.
Okay.
I don't believe you have the authority. I believe once you've appropriated, once you've approved, it becomes an administrative function at that point. Now, let me qualify it by saying there are exceptions, obviously, to every law and every rule that was ever made. If it could be demonstrated that this constituted or was going to constitute a genuine financial emergency in that situation, but I find it hard to fathom that repairing a fountain is going to qualify under that scenario. If we're talking about, you know, erecting a 10-story office building, you know, maybe different situation, but I think once the approvals have been gained, once the procedures have been adhered to that are put in place for a reason,
sure.
Unless it's something really, really of an emergency nature, I don't think you can stop that. I think that that is clearly now an administrative function. I think that's up to the administration to decide, not the council.
And let me ask that question, seeing I got the floor, because is it possible for the administration to stop it? I mean, because once we gave the money, it's your authority. Is that possible? Is even if maybe I'm asking a question you're not prepared to answer just yet.
I mean, I'd like to look into it a little bit more. I would say the mayor is the chief administrative officer of the city would always retain that authority. But what I don't know here is, I don't know the interplay here between, I heard anecdotally that there's federal money involved here, there may be federal grants. I don't know. This is why I'm saying, with all due respect to you and everyone else in here, you know, I'm hearing different things from different people. It's very hard to form an opinion like that. I need a firm factual basis, a firm factual predicate before I or any lawyer can opine.
Right. So I certainly will give you that, and I wasn't looking to put you on the spot. So looking at the optics and the situation that we're in, and not just the optics, we're in a terrible financial situation. Listen, every one of us had budgetary crisis, maybe not budgetary crisis in their home, but times when they didn't have as much money as they thought they might have. And they had to tighten their belt, buy cheaper paper towels, cancel vacations. Well, the city's in a tough time that maybe they one time had the ability to buy a beautiful fountain. But the truth is today, I would keep the old one. But that's not a question. That's a commentary. As I move on to my second item, the other question we have that seemed to come up is this our fountain? All right. And that's a big question I have, because I got emails, and why should we pay for a fountain that belongs to St. Mary's? I wasn't going to ask you that one, but go ahead. Yes.
Guarantee these questions are going to come up.
Mhm.
The way I see it is this, okay? I've heard words and phrases thrown around, again, anecdotally. I've heard terms such as right of way.
I'm sorry, John.
A right of way, okay, in the vernacular is basically a term of art for an easement, okay? Number one, first issue, I know where this is located, but
Yep.
what is not clear to me, anyway, in the absence of a survey, I know there's a GIS map here.
It's up on the screen now, I think? Yes, it is. Okay.
On number one, on whose property, where does the property line, where does the boundary line go between the city and the church? That's number one. That's got to be established, okay? Once that's done, the second question becomes, did the church give the city an easement to utilize that portion of the property as a quote-unquote right-of-way? The next question that has to be asked is there a recorded instrument that memorializes this? The next question is it a pedestrian right-of-way, vehicular right-of-way? Is the easement an appurtenant easement? I don't want to go too far off and with all these technical terms, but I think you could see where I'm going. These are all questions that beg your question, because your question cannot be answered until all of these foundational questions are answered.
Okay.
Okay, now, let me just finish with one other thought.
Sure.
Let us suppose that at some point the church said you can use this particular area here for your benefit, people can walk along it, so on and so forth. Well, at that point in time, the easement holder is responsible for the upkeep. Okay, now, to complicate this further, it looks like that this fountain, there's a letter here from a parishioner who donated this. Now, he says he donated it to the city of Cranston. He did not say he donated it to the church. He donated it to the city of Cranston. Whether that's true or not, I have no way of knowing. Is there anything recorded? Is there anything in writing from the 1990s? I don't know. Taking his words as true, it would seem to me that if the city has an easement or the city owns that parcel, either way, and that fountain was granted to the city as a gift, the city ultimately, in my opinion, would be responsible for its upkeep and its maintenance. Just to use an analog, it's not quite the same thing, but when I was solicitor in Johnston, a taxpayer donated a fire rescue truck to the town, donated it, the same way this person donated the fountain. I don't think anyone here would be surprised to learn that once we took possession of that rescue truck, we were responsible for its maintenance, for its repair, so on and so forth. This is no different, really. Okay, once it's ours, we're responsible for it. Now, I say all of this because I have no idea what the underlying factual predicate is here. I have heard every version that you can hear. So I can't give you an opinion. So this is something everyone should just keep in mind when you discuss this, because I think personally, I think you're going to go around in circles until you have these questions answered, because it's always going to come down to, well, who owns it? How long? What was the intent?
Yeah. Well, I certainly want them answered. So if it takes today, tomorrow, if we have to put it back on the docket again, I certainly willing to do it. Now, I know that the map is up there, and one of the big questions I had is, and no one could tell me this, and I'll ask you this question, maybe Director Correo. Right away, how many feet in constitute right away? From the street, how many feet in constitute right away?
Frank Correo, Director of Public Works. The right-of-way that you are looking at there,
Right,
and I don't really need a survey to tell me, and that line on the GIS could be off a foot or so,
right.
that was the old Cranston Street. As you can see, the original Cranston Street went straight through there. I know from my experiences as being traffic engineer for the state of Rhode Island for 10 plus years, plus being with them for 32 years, whenever you had an intersection like that years ago, they were the very wide open Ys. And what they did is they always tried to tee them up the best you can so you can control traffic flow through that area. I'm quite confident what you're looking at right there is the old Cranston Street, which is the city right of way. That's city property that was owned.
So
by
should
them.
we take a motion to enter this map into the record? If everybody has it? I want to make a motion
Yes.
to enter the
Second.
map into the record that everybody has.
Okay.
So
I made a motion.
to enter
Second.
the tax map provided to the committee into the record.
And the letter.
Well, letter is second, yeah, but we can, want to enter them both at once, because I also am going to want to do that as well. Enter the letter as well.
Motion to enter the letter and the map.
Second.
Any discussion? Can I get the roll, please?
Councilwoman Graziano?
Yes.
Councilman Andujar?
Yes.
Councilwoman Vaziri?
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano? Councilman Banano?
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan?
Yes.
Council President Wall?
Yes. So in reference to the map, and that was that was the worry, because on a hot afternoon, I went out with my tape measure and I measured 13 feet from the street to the start of the fountain. At that point, I got a little worried about who does this belong to? I didn't have the aerial footage, and now that you say it, all the discolored, kind of a brownish area is the new bricking.
That is
So-
correct.
So you're telling me the original line is more of a straight line that would go across from where the steps of the church are, which is about 11 feet from the fountain. I measured that as well. So you're telling me you believe that that's their property, and there's nothing I could find in any of our ordinances or our charter that tells me this. So thank you for clarifying that. Is it all right to read this into the record as well, this letter? Also helping my question, because I was concerned, is there should be some documentation. If I gave a gift, I'm sure it cost a lot of money in the 1990s. I think the city accepted that gift and knew going forward that they were going to have to maintain it somewhere in our records. There has to be something about this. But if it pleases the chair, I'm going to read it into the record. And it's all right to use his name as well? Oh, it's from, and he sent this out, Nicole, he sent this out a couple of days ago? Okay. So it's from Gene Richmond, Cranston, Rhode Island. It says, "Dear members of the Cranston City Council, my name is Gene Richmond, and I live on 6 Oak Tree Lane in Cranston. After hearing lots of discussion about the fountain near St. Mary's, I felt it was important that I share what I remembered about its history. As best I can recall, sometime in the mid-1990s, neither the city of Cranston nor St. Mary's Church had the money to put a fountain there. I thought it would make that corner of the neighborhood a little more beautiful, so I donated a fountain to the city of Cranston. I underlined this point, to be placed on its property adjacent to the church. My hope was that it would be there for everyone to enjoy, whether they were walking by, visiting the neighborhood, or coming to church. I never imagined it would become such a special part of our neighborhood. Over the years, I've seen people admire it, take wedding pictures, First Holy Communion, graduation photos, family pictures, and many other special photographs there. It meant a great deal to me to know that something I was able to give had become part of so many happy memories. Knowing that people still care about the fountain after all these years tells me it meant something to the community, which was all I ever hoped for. Thank you for your time. Now, barring, and I know you just got it tonight as well as I, barring any records we have, would it, and this being the only document, would this suffice to say that that fountain or the land that that fountain is on and the gift was to City of Cranston says that it does not belong to St. Mary's, it belongs to the City of Cranston?
Well, based on that letter, based on the director's testimony, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, if that's all you have, I think that's enough. There's certainly nothing to contradict that.
I certainly still would like you to research it. I am going to continue, I am going to ask to continue it. I'm going to add it to my communication next time.
Yeah, if, like I said.
We should research this further.
We'll have to see if an easement was ever recorded there.
That pretty much, I mean, it doesn't take away the fact that we're in a terrible budget crisis and we're spending money, then we should perhaps tighten our belts. That certainly doesn't. But those are two issues that were concerning me. I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you.
Reggie, your microphone's off.
Sorry, microphone. I'm going to be selfish as the chair. Doing a bunch of things right now. The one comment, feel like this is not as complicated as we're trying to make it. So two things, Director Correo and the city have the plans for construction that was completed by a land surveyor. Otherwise, there's no way they'd be able to do any right-of-way work in the city. We would like those plans. That's number one. Number two is there's a contract that the city entered into for the work, and there could potentially be a provision that allows the city to make change orders. That change order could be made by the administration if they saw fit. I don't know if there's a penalty written into that contract, but it's the contract, and to find out if a change order could be made to cease any work pertaining to the fountain. But I also don't know how far along it is and what it would cost the city to do a change order. So I'm not saying those are good things, but those are things that we need to see. And I think there's two items that we're saying here. One is we don't like the cost, right? So we're saying that's the number one item. So that was the item that I'm trying to address for the public. Number two is, do we have to upkeep it? I think that is a decision that the city has to make. Do we want to upkeep the fountain and pay $173,000, or can we hold off a little bit? So I think there's two different things. Do we want to do the upkeep, or we need to hold it off? And then what is the ultimate cost? So I think that could be solved by getting the plans from the land surveyor that needed to be submitted in order to do the work, which will show the right of way. I don't think we need to debate about that. And I don't want to take up too much time about the right of way. And I agree, what Director Correo is saying is very valid. That makes sense to me. But then I would like to see the contract and an opinion whether or not you can do a change order on that. And if that change order itself would cost the city additional money, and then how far along we are in the project. I am going to go ahead. We want you to hang out, don't leave. But I'm going to go to Vice President Haroyan, who had her hand up, and then Councilwoman Vaziri.
I would just like it to be on the record. I'm sorry, there's a lot of St. Mary supporters, but I am sure every single person in this room, whether you're from St. Mary's or not, was raised a separation between government, state, and church. So how a grant money, federal money, city money is being used to repair a fountain. Second of all, how did we get here? If this was a city fountain, are we saying the city didn't maintain it? How are we going to pay for the water in the future? Because if I had my way, unfortunately, I'm the biggest advocate for low-income kids. the splash pads would not have been open because I didn't think we could afford them. So to put another fountain in that's gonna cost money, and then are we gonna need a new fountain in 30 years? None of us will be here to remember this, but if it's costing 173,000 now, are we looking at 500,000 down the road? I just think the money could have been used a lot better. Whether it's Mary, yes, it's beautiful to stand in front of. There's a lot of beautiful things. We all have to make sacrifices right now. We just had a budget that was, some people wanted to close the senior center, and that meant some seniors only meal they have a day. So to have something that looks pretty costing this much money, as much as I'm against stamped sidewalks, and we're probably gonna get them in Ralph Square, this is more a show thing. If we're gonna spend money, we need to do it on functional things that affect the everyday life of every citizen.
Councilwoman Vaziri.
So Councilwoman Horoyan took my question about separation between church and state, but Councilman Campo Piano, is there any money that the church has that they can pay for it? Because I don't think the city should be paying for it.
I don't know if Councilman Campapiano wants to answer this. I will
I'm gonna reserve
recognize
my
him.
comments until after the director speaks.
Okay, great. So we're going to put that question on hold. Anyone else? Councilman Bonanno.
First of all, thank you. I want to disagree with Council Vice President Horoyan. She said none of us will be here in 30 years, and I think Amelia and I will be here in 30 years. So you're out. Well, no, maybe, maybe.
I think traffic will still be there.
Yeah, traffic's gonna
In that
outlive us
same
all.
seat.
Yeah, traffic's gonna outlive us all. Okay. No one has a bigger connection to St. Mary's Church on this council than I. My family helped build it. There's a document in a book where my great-grandfather signed as one of the original families to build St. Mary's Church because the Italians were persecuted by other cultures at St. Anne's. I made all my sacraments at St. Mary's Church. It was my desire to have my children make theirs there. Didn't work out. However, my connection to St. Mary's is huge. With that being said, I can't believe that we're talking about this. I honestly cannot believe that we're talking about this. I appreciate Mr. Richmond's letter, and I know Mr. Richmond, and I think he is the utmost upstanding citizen. But I think, to be honest, he's going to bat for his friend when he says that neither the city of Cranston nor St. Mary's had the money to put a fountain there. I thought it would, excuse me, I'm reading the wrong line. So I donate a fountain to the city of Cranston. The man donated the fountain to the church. Donating it to the city doesn't make it any better or worse. Donating it to the church doesn't make it any better or worse. As a man who is a philanthropist, very wealthy man, he gave a fountain to beautify the area because of the church, and he donated the fountain to the church. I remember when he donated the fountain to the church because my grandfather and some of his compatriots, they enjoyed it aesthetically, but it made some of the logistics of taking the saint out of the church during St. Mary's feast more difficult. And of course, like any old Italian guy, they had to complain about everything. So I remember when it was put there, and I remember a lot of details about it. And like I said, this was donated to the church. The city did not realize, the city does not know that they owned it until this Niceville revitalization project came about. Okay, there's no question about that. And how do I know that? Because 4 or 5 blocks down the road is Eitri Park. And every winter, that fountain is contracted out professionally to be winterized, while this one is wrapped with bungee cords and a tarp. And if the city knew that we own that fountain, I don't think they're going to ignore that fountain. Okay, so let's take our shoot, we messed up, and let's find a legal way to make this work, hat off, and put our common sense hat on. Now, it's no secret that I'm not running for reelection. People have asked me why. It's because I have to sit here and get kicked in the teeth because of bad decisions by people other than the people on this council. I'm sick of it. And this is one of them. I don't think, to you folks out here, especially Mr. Wojak, I don't think that we have the ability to reverse this. And I hope that it does last 50 years because we're going to wind up paying for it. But I can tell you that, you know what? Mr. Ferry said it's about right and wrong. This should have been disclosed. It should have been put up in the plans. It shouldn't have been buried anywhere because whether or not I voted on it or not, and I don't think I got a piece of paper that said included in this is a fountain for St. Mary's, or I shouldn't say for St. Mary's, in front of St. Mary's. Included was this brickwork and this stamped concrete and this and this. We didn't get details like that. It was part of the capital budget. Hey, we're going to redo Knightsville. Well, that's not really a bad idea in my estimation. Okay. But some of the devil, like I said, is in the details. And these details, there is a devil in these details. I have a couple more things to say. And I think, I forgot which one of my colleagues astutely brought it up. Who's going to pay for the upkeep now? Yeah, it's good. It's a grant. But now what? I don't have a fountain in front of my house. I don't know how much it costs. I can't imagine it's cheap. Okay. So I think that we should look into, since the church is going to benefit from this, I think we should look into the church perhaps sharing some of the expense of maintaining it. Okay, number one. Number two, I can tell you for a fact that that what Mr. Verdecchia elucidated as far as easements and even a memorandum of understanding, none of that happened. So we're not gonna find that. Okay, and if it did, I will be extremely surprised. I also think, frankly, the right-of-way argument isn't that great. You know what else is in the right-of-way? Mine and everybody else's sprinkler system that owns one. So you know what? Maybe we should go out for a grant because some of my sprinkler heads are broken. I would love for the city to be able to fix those. Finally, all the change that gets thrown into that fountain, hope St. Mary's donates it to the city. Thank you.
Councilwoman Vaziri.
Who has been taking care of the fountain for all these years? Or has it just been neglected? So then they should pay for it.
Council Vice President Haroyan.
Solicitor, if this was gifted to be in front of St. Mary's and it's on city property, could the city give this fountain that's dysfunctional back to St. Mary's and we gift it to them and then they can have a fundraiser and repair it and take care of it?
Well, you need two things to have a gift. You need someone to donate and then you need acceptance. So, but in theory, yeah, sure you could. It could be gifted 100 times, but they need to, the city would have to make the gift and then the church would have to accept it. But again, you're seeing why I stood up before and said what I said about the factual predicate here. There's just too many unknowns to really address this issue properly, in my opinion.
T. Go ahead.
Traff. I know I'm not a member of this committee, but I got to speak out. Perhaps none of you were born in the 1980s, I don't know. But I was on the city council during the 1980s, and Ed DePreet, who was mayor at that time, had a reconstruction project of the Knightsville area. And some of you may recall, he constructed the pillars that were in front of Knightsville Manor. And if you think the fountain caused a problem for the Knightsville area, you should have been there about those pillars. Because the Italo-American community did not want those pillars constructed, but he went forward and built them. He also reconstructed a portion of the Knightsville area as well. And I think for traffic purposes, he also constructed the extension of that sidewalk. There was no fountain on it now. I'm going back to the 1980s, because I was on the city council back then. Now let's talk about the 1990s. I was mayor at the time. I can assure you, and I know Gene Richmond. He's an outstanding individual, an upright citizen. He's a good-hearted person as well. I'm sure he donated that fountain. I can assure you one thing. I did not sign any papers accepting fountain in the front of St. Mary's Church as mayor of the city of Cranston. All right? It was donated to the church. And since that time, the church has been operating that fountain because I was back then a member of St. Mary's Church. And I know Richard agrees with me. Like I said, that fountain was being operated and cared for by the St. Mary's community. Now, I didn't know about this fountain. I was sitting at a banquet at the St. Mary's Feast Society annual banquet. It's about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that's when I found out about the fountain being donated by the city of Cranston. Because the mayor got up and spoke about the reconstruction of the Knightsville area. And he mentioned the fountain at that particular time. And that's when it came to our attention. So that's basically the history of the situation. But I can assure you, when I was mayor of the city of Cranston in the 1990s, we did not build, nor do we accept responsibility for a fountain in front of St. Mary's Church.
Thank you. Councilman Andujar.
Director, how much does that fountain really cost?
If I can take a few minutes, I'd just like to clear up
just
some of
want
the
to figure this
discussions that
out.
are taking place, because some of them are way off base. First of all, when this project was put together, we had the budget, as you just mentioned, there was a $4.7 million allocated or budgeted for this project. When the design consultant put together his engineer's estimate, which is his estimation of what it's going to cost to bid this project, it came in at 3.5 and change is a million. So we had some surplus money potentially available for this, depending on what would happen when they bid the work. Prior to the completion of these projects, we normally would walk through it, check the plans, make sure that nothing got overlooked, make sure everything was according to what was on those plans. So everything we see on those plans and what you're seeing built today was on those plans back at the time when everybody had the opportunity to review it. There were details with the fountain on there. There was estimates in there for what the fountain was going to cost. During that field review, part of what we did was, this is what they call a streetscape project. It's not just the safety improvements for the roadway, but it had to do with accessibility. It had to do with the aesthetics. It had to do with planting of trees. So it was a common theme that was being brought from Eatery Park all the way down through this area. So what happens is when we walked this project, part of my responsibilities when I'm out there was to make sure we're looking and addressing all the safety issues. Granted, wherever the fountain came from, however that fountain got in the ground, the bottom line is it is on city property. And I'm not an attorney, but I'm the father of an attorney who was a personal injury lawyer, and I've had a lot of discussions with her relative to trip and fall and liability. When I was going through there and I saw a fountain, and if they have the pictures, they could put it up. That fountain right now, the base is about 12 inches off the ground. First of all, I saw that and I said, that's a major trip and fall. The liability to the city, if somebody was to trip or fall backwards or take photographs and move, we're going to be responsible, regardless of who gave us that and why it is there. So you're going to have that responsibility. The second thing was, as you looked at the fountain, the wiring in there was exposed to the water. So you've got electricity running in there. Was it properly grounded? I don't know. I'm not an electrician. I'm not the father of an electrician. But I can tell you that that did not look safe to me. And as a result, because we do this as a safety improvement, when I saw how much money was left and what was budgeted versus what the engineer's estimate was, I felt that it was, in my opinion, and it was a prudent decision in order to make sure we protect the city and the taxpayers, because believe it or not, when someone trips and falls and you have $1 million, $2 million lawsuit because they broke their hip or their arm, all of a sudden everybody's going to say, well, gee, you had this out there, you just reconstructed the whole area, you didn't address all the safety issues, now you're responsible for it. So having said, that's how we got to this point. As far as what's going on with the cost, the fountain itself did not cost $173,000. Everybody's got to get that through their head. It did not. You've got to understand, when somebody bids a project, this is a construction project, and he bids a project, he did not bid a line item. This is a lump sum item within that contract. And when it comes to estimating a project for those who are involved in construction, you can put your money anywhere you want in any of the items that you bid and that you produce in the proposal pages of a contract. It's called, excuse me, an unbalanced bid. There was money in there for that item, but he also has profit. He has other items of work that could be in there that could potentially not have come to fruition. So he's got his profit. He's got other items in that bid item to make sure he maximizes the profit of his project, of his contract. One of the things to keep in mind, the difference between the first low bidder and the second low bidder was about $550,000. And the second low bidder, he bid this project and he bid that item at $100,000. Are we really going to know exactly what that cost of that item is? We do not. And we really don't have the right to go ahead and ask him what it is. That's the way he bid the job. That's his responsibility. And he bids that job assuming he's going to win, regardless of what he puts into those contract items. He did it. The low bidder won it. The price he had for that lump sum item was $173,500. That is not what that fountain costs. So when people keep saying that it's a $173,000 fountain, it is not. It's significantly less than that. What you're paying for are some of the items in there that he offset his bids so that he makes sure whatever money he knows, because he knows that fountain is going in, that's how he was going to get the profit on the other items. There are other items that he put in that are bid lower than what the second bidder put on there. So you've got to understand, this was contract bidding. It's estimating. It's an art. It's not a science. You don't just take what it was per linear foot times the cost and come up with the total dollar value. That's not the way construction works. And if anybody thinks it's different, I'd be willing to sit down and discuss it with them. So, right.
Well, and I hear you keep
President
saying, you're
Wall.
saying it's not $173,000. When you voted on it, what was it? I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I'm not trying to be snarky, but we were in a time when we spent 2 months looking at every line of a budget where we spent every dime. I want to know how much it was. Significantly less is good. How much significantly less?
I think that's a question.
What these people are saying is this: we spent $173, $150, $100,000 to put a fountain that we didn't need in front of the church, Frank. That's the issue right now. Maybe we could have cut that 160,000, whatever it was, out and save a couple of money for the taxpayers. I think that's the point. If we decide that this doesn't belong to the church, we still come back to the point that we are making these, and I don't want to be snarky about it, pet projects priority when we need to save some money. Regardless of what we spend, if we spend an extra $100,000, $200,000, it increases our debt service. Next year, it's going to contribute to our deficit. That's the point I'm making. If we say that this belongs to the city, fine, let's take that for a moment. I still want to save money. This is the time when we don't spend extra money. So I want to know the amount of money. That's my big issue right now because our debt is going up. So I spent a lot of hours looking at the agendas and finding the Board of Contracts. I couldn't find anything except Knightsville Revitalization Streetscape Phase 3. That's a very vague statement. So the truth is, I had no damn idea until I walked out that there was a fountain there. I didn't know they replaced the fountain. It looked good last year. I've got pictures of it. Perhaps it was too short. It didn't run great. But the truth is, I'm not really sure. And you're probably right about all this. But I bet it would have cost less if we didn't have a fountain.
It would have
So that's
cost
the point.
less, again, assuming that no one would ever get hurt. We don't know. If somebody did have that one-time potential trip and fall,
What if it's just bricks and there's no fountain?
You're
If the
still
St. Mary's wanted to put a fountain in, they could put a fountain. I'm
Oh,
not going to go back. And
okay,
forth, but
okay.
You get my point. I'm not trying to be
Yeah,
belligerent
we're not
about
going
it,
back and
but
forth.
I think you make a good point. But I also want to say we didn't have to do a lot of extra stuff. At a certain point, we could probably save some money in our debt service. You said that we saved $800,000. Maybe we saved another $100,000 not having a fountain. Is it going to look as beautiful? No, I get what you're saying. But the truth is, there's places in the city where we don't have sidewalks that aren't cracked. That's the point. So I'm not trying to go back and forth because if you're saying that's fine, you and I are going to disagree, and I'll certainly talk about construction later.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we are not going to go back and forth unless I call on you. So I'm going to go back to Councilman Andahar, who asked Director Correo the question.
Yes, Director. I also wanted to note that this was a grant that was given in, I think, March of 2024 before all of us, correct? The original grant.
The
Way to
original
go.
earmark money was given to the city by the federal government.
Okay.
Through Congress.
So now my next question would be to the administration, if somebody could just answer this question. Are we using city tax dollars, or is this a federal grant that we're using and it's basically coming out of our federal tax dollars? If somebody could just
I think
clarify that.
Director Moretti is going to get up and answer the question for you.
Because I think that's where we're all getting confused.
Yeah, as Director Correa mentioned, it is the entire project. A fountain was not bid, we're not paying specifically on an itemized basis for a fountain. It's a project was awarded for approximately 3.5 million. I believe it's on budget, of which $1,950,000 was secured by Senator Reed working with the city of Cranston. And the difference would be city bond money that was approved by the city council.
Thank you. So it is city. It is city money.
We're just back to what Paul said. I mean, that's nice and all, but I think what everyone is kind of saying is that we still didn't have to spend it. Maybe Director Creo needed to make safety improvements, but we don't know how much those safety improvements were comparatively to the full restoration. And I think this is the point. It may have been buried in there, and I get it's a lump sum, but you still can make a change. You can request a change order. Vice President Horoyan.
I would just like everyone to, grant money is beautiful. Grant money is your taxpayer money. It's your federal taxpayer or state. So either way you look at it, grant money is your taxpayer money.
Thank you. Councilman Bonanno.
I'm not going to speak long again, but I feel really bad because I remember sitting in this seat at the end of a budget meeting, being snarky to the finance director because we cut, what was it, Councilman Ritz, $1,000 in stamps to try to keep the senior center open and fund our schools properly. And I understand that it's what the director just said. It's a hybrid of bond money and grant money. And we can't delineate because it's a whole project. But, you know, I feel really badly that this is the conversation that we have to have. And it just should never come to this. It just should never come to this. And we got to have more information here on the council moving forward. Because we're getting our teeth kicked in from the public. And whether we deserve it or not, well, there's an argument for either one of those, but I'm kind of sick of that. So, thanks.
Councilman Andrew, I'm going to Councilman Ritz, because you did, Councilman Ritz.
Yeah, I'm not a member of this committee, but I'm sure hearing the public with the fountain, I think even in good times, 173,000 is way too much to spend for the fountain. And Councilman Bonanno took one of my thoughts. You know, it wasn't that long ago we were cutting back, you know, $1,000 here, $5,000 here to keep the senior center open and keep the city camp going. So I think it's just tough to understand this. And I know what you're saying, it was a package deal, but if there's an availability to kind of break that down just so we can understand it more, if we could at least try and get that, it would definitely help us.
I mean, going forward, I'm not sure how you're going to do that other than we would have to sit here and just walk you through the entire project on every single project that you do. I mean, the project starts at the beginning. It started at Randall Street. It goes all the way down to a portion approximately 50 to 100 feet north of Florida Avenue. I mean, there was street lighting there. It was always shown on the plans, the typical sections and everything that was shown always showed lighting. Do you need all those things? No, but part of the project and part of the vision that people have for this thing was to revitalize and to do a streetscape project for the city of Cranston. That included what was in Knightsville. The common theme was to be carried through because prior to this, from 2022 and 23, or before that, they did Eatery Park. They had some improvements there. Then once that project was completed, the next project went out. That was a continuation. This again is just a continuation of what was there. Hindsight is 2020. Could we all sit here if this was last week and we were coming in with these items? I totally agree with everyone what you're saying. We could be looking at trying to remove some of these things to cut the cost. But at the time this project was put together back in 2024, That wasn't the giant issue. The goal was to be able to revitalize and do a streetscape project that everybody could be proud of as you go through this project through that Knightsville area. And I think that's what was accomplished by what we have. Trying to go back now after the fact, it is going to cost you more money because the contract is going to say, I bid the item, that's the lump sum item. I've already put in X number of tens of thousands of dollars of work. You want me to take it out? Fine, I'll take it out. But we have to sit there and negotiate a price for him to have removed, which was the removal of the old one, the placing of the concrete footing, the coating of that concrete, the placement of the granite that was specially cut to make that base that's there today, the piping that was brought in for the water that's there, the electricity costs that are going into putting it together. And then you want to start and you say, don't do anything, then you're going to end up with a hole in the ground with a fountain with no fountain.
How far along?
Right now, everything is done short of placing whatever fountain we have to place on top of the foundation. It's all there.
Found,
Yes.
okay, Councilman Andahar.
I just want the public to know that we approve the whole capital budget. We do not approve line items. We can't go in, like, I can't go to Gladstone School and say, don't buy those $250 chairs. We already approved Gladstone, it's already sailed. Now, and I always speak my mind and I can sleep at night. And I thank Councilman Ferry for bringing this up. But the gentleman next to me on my right does not like me. And he's gonna work his tail off against me. And I'm gonna work my tail off against him. But to crucify this poor guy saying that he's the one that put this fountain there, I believe is wrong. I belong to Holy Ghost Church in Providence, and we have the same issue. We have the same fountain, and it beautifies Federal Hill. And when you enter Federal Hill, if you're coming up from Oneyville, it gives you a good feeling. And when you leave Federal Hill, you see the fountain, and it gives you a good feeling. So we have the fountain there. It was approved before us. End of story. Now, in the future, I'm the first one that talked about this a few weeks ago. We need to change the charter so this council has more power on line item. Right now, we don't have it. So this is a witch hunt. So I think it's over. I thank Councilman Ferry for bringing it up. You brought up the attention. We need to move on.
Council President Wall.
I can't tell, I don't know if we can, I appreciate Director Murray from the back. He said, could the mayor stop it right now? And that thought that perhaps we have to tighten our belts, even with the projects that we want done, right? And when you said that, maybe we can't change this project because we're too far along. But it's a lesson that we do have other projects. And can we save some money? Because the truth is, at the end of the day, some of this money was grant money that would go away. $1.9 million was grant money from the federal government, and rightfully said from Vice President Haroyan, that's your money and my money. And grant money, if you don't use it, it's lost. But the other is from the capital budget, and that's bonded money, right? And that increases our debt service. So if we can tighten our belt, like we talked about during the capital budget during this year, going forward, perhaps we're thinking a little more frivolously than we once would, that some of the bells and whistles, and I say this, I look at you because, to be honest with you, you're on the Board of Contracts and Purchases, and you would be a person who would be able to kind of think that way, because right now the council doesn't have the ability to stop those things.
And if I can just add to that, I understand that, but also remember, I've only been here a year. You learn lessons as you go along.
Yeah.
If that is the concept and that's what the council is thinking going forward, then we have that mindset going forward. But trying to go back for something that was pre-approved 2+ years ago and try to criticize it now and try to say, let's stop it. It's not a prudent thing to do.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be people who are going to criticize for what we're doing, and they're going to be people criticizing it. If we left it the way it is, stop the work on the fountain, they're going to say, how could you go this far? How could you leave that? I mean, we're not going to please everybody. We understand the thought process. We understand where the people stand going forward. We'll take a different look at it. I understand it, and I will for the time that I'm here. But it's just not a prudent thing, in my opinion, and I've been in the construction industry for 30+ years and a professional engineer for 40 years. Doing what we're trying to do now about backtracking is not the best decision to be made for a project like this.
I certainly understand. And I think my point was, if you can't backtrack right now, if you're at a point, you can't. I get it. If you're saying that, and we'd look into it. What I'm saying going forward, I think some of our projects, as we go, we have to be a little bit more thrifty with our dollars. That's all.
And there is still some work to be done here. And if we want to try to tighten the belt a little bit, we could look at saving some additional monies between now and where we are. There is still some additional work that we might be able to, what they call value engineer out and not do it. And if that's the wishes, that is something we can do because we are getting started to complete this project. We're paving this project next Monday night into Tuesday. They'll be finishing this project for paving. So there's still a little bit of work to take place for the next couple of weeks. And there are things, if we can save it, I respect your decision that you would like us to consider it, and we will do that.
Thank you. Really quick before Director Moretti speaks, I'm going to let Council Bonanno go ahead.
Thank you. I feel bad for you too, because you're in the hot seat. I think, first of all, I think Cranston is lucky to have you, and I don't want any of my comments to say or infer anything different.
Our friendship goes beyond the wall.
I know, so yeah. Cranston is lucky to have you, plain and simple. With that being said, I think you've also sort of received the message that the entire council is giving you, which is we would like some more information. So if a member of the public asks us a question, we're not caught off guard, you know, and B, yeah, at this point, I think anything we need to be thrifty with. So, you know, it's a two-way street. And I hope that's the mindset going forward here. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that leads into the next bullet item, and President Wall can. What? Oh, well, I think we're not done with the first one, but I think this stems into the second one. We're not going to go into it, but basically is that it sounds like the council would like a list of projects and where we can get this value engineering from. That is sort of flowing into the second one, which is like, we would like an update on what's coming forward for contracts and bids. So we know what might be out there and what may need to be cut. You want to be last? Okay, Director Moretti.
No, thank you. I had no prepared comments. I was sitting back listening to everyone here this evening and just want to kind of summarize things. I believe everyone is right in a lot of ways. But I think what came out in the last part of the discussion was this: to put things in perspective, had the city not received basically a $2 million grant for a $3.5 million project, I could tell you, I don't think the city council or the administration would have proceeded. Put ourselves back 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. That's where we are. Look at the timing of this. By the time this contract was executed, it was a public display. It was not behind closed doors. And just want to make that important point. It was vetted, and at the time was probably supported by everyone, or most everyone. I could say that. Nothing's ever unanimously supported. But now we have, it was awarded as a package, and we're looking myopically because of a news report about a fountain for $173,000. Director Correa educated me tonight, particularly about how the bidding process worked, but realized it's not Mayor Hopkins' fountain. I want you to know that. It was design architects, engineers, whatever the fancy word is, that these people developed the project, the proposal. That proposal was submitted out to bid. The entire project came back to the lowest bidder. And given the timing of that, it was, if I may respectfully mention to the council president, this project actually broke ground. It wasn't this spring, it was last late summer to fall when it began, with continuing finishing it up this spring. So really the construction aspect started, I don't know exactly what month,
It's probably August of last year, 2025.
Because it went, if I may, through the chair, I'm going by what I was reading in the Board of Contracts and Purchases, and the 22nd, you approved of the bid. That's what I have there. So I'm hearing that, I guess perhaps the fountain, I don't know when you started breaking ground on that part. Was the fountain that long ago? Because last year at this time, the old fountain was
The
there.
fountain itself broke ground probably earlier this spring, early in the spring.
That's what I think I was referring to.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
just to clarify, I totally got it. Yep.
Okay. So that was kind of, so basically this was committed. If we were to redo this, and we went through this process with capital projects in the budget, we all get it. The administration, the council gets it. That we are just trying to reduce whatever we can reduce that's feasible. To backtrack on this project now, it's either going to cost the city more money or it's going to be negligible for something that's going to be here for probably 30 to 50 years or so. So it'll be literally pennies on the dollar if we ever backtrack, and it might even be worse to renege on a contract. From my business experience, you renege on contracts, you're paying. It doesn't come free, especially at this point in the project. So what I'm saying is, yeah, had we, in hindsight, had we, had that decision-making process been in the last recent times, it wouldn't have been this decision. And certainly going forward, that consideration will be there. But I can tell you, if times were booming and we were doing well, I don't know if this would really be a news article. But it's merited. Everyone deserves their opinion, and there is controversy, and it's understood. But respectfully, I think it's the truth. I'm not trying to snuff anything under the rug, but what's there is there, and to move on. In hindsight, is 2020, and had we not had, had we had the opportunity to truly do something materially effectively moving forward, that would have been done. So the words are there. We respect the public. Everything was said. Respect the council, everything that's said, but at the same time, had to give perspective to the timing of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if I could just mention one other thing to follow up on, just to keep in mind, the contract right now, as it stands, we're minus 1.1% above what the bid prices are. So we're running under the estimated cost of what it's going to take, and there's still time to finish things up. So this project will come in under budget, regardless of what we do.
Okay.
Including the fountain, it will still be under budget.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Capapiano.
Thank you, Chair. I want to apologize if I ramble a little because I might have a lot to say. Through the chair, I don't know if Director Renzulli has anything to add to this.
I will tell you that the $173,000 is the number that I gave to the press because that was the number that was given to me. And I just recently also learned about unbalanced bids and how that works. So I will say that that's applicable across any construction project that we have. And I am, other than working here, I'm also a taxpayer in Cranston, and I would have liked to understand that, because when taxpayers ask questions, I think they want the details, and we don't necessarily have those. We're not lying about it. They just don't exist within the bid. So $173,000 sounds like a lot of money, but that included more than just the fountain, and there's no way to break that down further for me to do. So I'm the messenger. I just want to convey that. On top of that, I do think that it is, relevant whether this is on city property or not. So if this was a road before, then it is part of the right of way, unless we gave it to the church. So I guess we have to look for that. And in that case, it's no different than the fountain at Cathedral Square, which the city of Providence owns and maintains, and the fountain across from Holy Ghost. It's the same thing. So I don't know how we're going to have the separation of church and state argument amongst this council unless that is church property. So someone's going to have to prove that. And that's all I really have to represent from the mayor, other than this was part of a project that revitalized an area. There are many other areas, including the two that I just mentioned in Providence, where those fountains are staples and inviting into an area. This is the beginning of Knightsville coming from Dyer Ave. That's going to be a beautiful area. This is eventually going to help with economic development, and I think that was part of his vision. This came through a capital budget, and councils had an opportunity to vote on it. You never get the details. If I was here and sat for years about the Budlong Pool, where we argued about how it was going to look and the size it was going to be, and ultimately at the end of the day, it was up to the mayor, and we could have built the pool exactly how it looks 5 years ago. So I don't know, really what you guys want to do, but you're going to have to change the charter if you want any other power, because it is what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you want to do that, the deadline's August 5th.
Okay, thank you. First, I find it a little offensive that because I'm active in my church, that I'm vilified. I had nothing to do with picking a fountain or getting a fountain or any of those things. It went from the newspaper to social media to these chambers. And I did nothing wrong. My only thing I did wrong was I'm active in my church. That's all. I also want to thank Councilman Andujar for sticking up for me in that fashion. Thank you. I also want to clarify something Councilman Andujar said. I do consider Mr. Ferry, a friend of mine, and I always will. And I always respected him, and I always respected him in public and in private. I feel he has good ideas, and when I served him on the council, I did. And I also always commend you at that time. I think it's only myself, the Director Renzulli, at the time, Councilman Ferry were on. I do not remember if you were on the council when we discussed this part of the project.
This part I was on.
You were on.
I
Well,
voted on
if you recall, at that time, we had a lengthy discussion on whether to finish the project or leave it at Randall Street. And after lengthy discussion, I think it was 8-1. Mr. Ferry was the only negative vote to go forward. So that being said, I'll admit the upgrades to that area may be a little excessive. I mean, the lighting, the concrete, the fountain, the park. I commend the administration for getting the grants they did get. Some of it was bond money. And we got to remember that that bond money and those grants were allocated for this project. Now, if you go back to that time, before any of this was done, Bar Lazio was a dive bar. There was multiple drug busts there, multiple arrests. It was probably a big black eye in the middle of Knightsville. Now they spend over $1 million, maybe $2 million building that building and invested in that whole side of the street. They own that whole side of the street. I don't know if anybody knows that, from corner to corner. And I think many of you had your fundraisers in that building. And I can tell you, every single one of you have joined a drink in that building. That building would not be here today if that revitalization wasn't done. It just wouldn't be here. Now there's a bank on the corner of Randall in Cranston that's up for lease now. I've talked to some developers and some restaurant people. That's going to cost over $5 million if they're going to put something there. Hopefully they do soon. But I could tell you right now, if nothing was done in that area, that would be an empty building, the same way some of their empty buildings throughout the city. We look for economic development in the city. That's the way it gets to be done. Again, it may be excessive, it may be too much, but it's done. It was voted on. The money was allocated for these projects. I'd like to ask the director, again, I'm rambling and I apologize. When we get specifically to the fountain, how was it determined it was a good idea to put a fountain there? Was it pressure from anybody, or was it a consultant that says this would be a good flow, similar to what's up in Federal Hill where Councilman Andujar pointed out, or was it a random choice?
No, the fact of the matter is the fountain was there. So based on the fact that it was there and based on the fact that it was actually on city property, that's where I took it upon myself when I walked by there and I saw it and I said, hey, we've got a potential safety hazard here and this thing is falling apart. Do we want this to be the entranceway into what we're calling this Knightsville area? Or do we think we should be updating this a little bit so that A, we get rid of the risk, we get rid of the liability, and we also help beautify this, which is part of what the thought process is for this. You know, you mentioned the economic development. You're talking about the improvements. You're talking about a Bar Lazio. You're talking about some of the other things in the businesses that are taking place in there. That would never happen if we don't do this. So if we become short-sighted to the point where we say, well, we're going to watch every single dollar, we're not going to do all this amenities, people aren't going to want to go there. Businesses do not want to be there. You've got people that are looking for developments. Look what's happening at Printworks. Printworks is actually getting all that stuff going. They're going to be completing it. There are going to be several apartments there. And then you're going to have an opportunity to have those people be able to walk up through a lit street that would be much safer than what we've had in the past, so that we can get from point A to point B, which is to all utilize and enjoy the restaurants, which we have some of the best restaurants around in that area. I mean, I am a citizen. I live in Cranston. I spend my tax dollars here. I enjoy going there, and it's nice to see what they're doing there. And yes, do we need to do everything? No, but part of it is a package. You got to look beyond the short-sightedness of today and look to the future. People will think about this in the future, just like they did, not to belabor the Budlong pool, but working on that pool, there were several people that worked on that project that had nothing but great things to say about the fond memories they had when they were kids utilizing that pool. And just something like that is something that we're giving to the kids today that will remember several years in the future. Same thing with this project. This project is something, yes, right now it was a budget concerns, granted, that's all true, but that wasn't at the time this all took place. That wasn't when the time when they decided to revitalize Knightsville. We're here now, we revitalized it, and just to follow up quickly with yours, it wasn't anybody's push from anywhere else other than when I was looking at it, looking at what the thought process was, what the theme was of that area, is that was going to be an eyesore and that was going to be a problem. And just like we're having concerns and criticisms now, if we had left that fountain the way it was and we did all this work and all this lighting, we would have been criticized for leaving that eyesore in the middle of this project when you just spent all this money to revitalize.
Thank you. I hope I don't lose my train of thought because I got two trains of thought here. No, past phase 3, I've heard rumors because I've been here the longest about potentially being a phase 4 someday. Now, phase 4 would bring you to the mills. And I believe Mr. Moses owns a piece of property over there where that old church is. He has plans of making a luxury restaurant there and making that whole area walkable. I went to the meeting in Eastern Cranston where they talk about walkability and mixed use, and it's all fantastic stuff. But if we don't invest in it, it's never going to happen. So there's a potential. I think there's 200 apartments that are going into that area. I'm sure they're going to want to frequent some of the stores that hopefully utilize this new area. And I talked to developers, and they're excited what's going on there. They're very excited. I understand that, we're in troubled times right now, and it's tough, and we had to make some tough decisions through the budget. But this is already past tense. It's already been done. I'll speak to the fountain for a second. The fountain was put in the mid-90s, like the letter said, and it's no secret. I have a couple of friends that are priests. I have one friend of mine, it's probably my oldest friend. He was a priest. I was friends with him for 30 years before he became a priest, so had nothing to do with him being a priest. And there's a lot of churches that have a policy: no volunteers, no donations, nothing. Because what happens is when something's volunteered or given or something like this, it tends to be a little inferior. They don't tend to follow code, like the directors just said with the electric, and things happen. I'll give you an example. Like some of the playgrounds around town were painted by volunteers. Oh, here we go, or whatever. It's never done to a professional standard, and I think that's what happened here. The fountain was, I don't know how much it was. I never asked Mr. Richmond, but it wasn't a public quality fountain. It almost immediately started deteriorating and it started failing. And Councilman Bonanno made the statement that it was held together with a bungee cord. Well, the reason why is we looked into having it professionally covered, same way as the one that's in Eatry Square. And the guy told us, as soon as I cover this and I vacuum form it, it's going down. This is, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna stand up. So we had to go with bungee cords through necessity and to wrap this thing up. And for some of you who don't know, half of that fountain was styrofoam. One side fell right off, and I commend some of the members. It wasn't myself. I commend some of the members of the Feast Society that actually built molds and made styrofoam molds to hold it together, because they didn't have the money to fix it or whatever. The church did maintain it for years, and I don't see that being an issue. If that becomes a sticking point and a bone of contention that who's gonna cover it each year, who's gonna uncover it, who's gonna maintain the chemicals or the water or whatever that is, I think we can work it out with St. Mary Church. I don't think they would be against anything like that. I mean, we'd have to work out some type of deal because obviously it's on city property. You know, we just learned that. So I think that's something we work out. And to Councilwoman Vaziri's question, no, we don't have the money. I seen a lot of the Facebook posts. I read every single one on multiple levels in multiple areas. And I think Councilman Andahar could probably attest to this. There isn't a church around that's loaded. It's a myth. It's no secret. It's in my ethics. I sit on the board of St. Mary's, and we struggle. We struggle every year to make our the same way with the schools. I look at the same level as the schools. Schools are 100 years old. Church is 100 years old. It's tough to maintain it. So we just went through and painted and did some stuff. So we don't have the money to buy a new one. So that's that part of it. So I look forward to the cost savings. I commend Director Correa for keeping this project under budget. That's good news. That's very good news. And if we can go further and keep it even further on the budget, I would appreciate it. I don't think the answer is just to leave a hole in the ground for now. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to drive by and enter into a nice little area with a hole in the ground. So I don't know if that's the answer.
Okay, sorry. President Wall wants a last word.
Well, it doesn't have to be the last one. I just did kind of want to, maybe some, and I appreciate, listen, no one's going to criticize you for your commitment to your faith and to your church. All right, I have nothing but respect for that. I think the point is, and listen, it's not thrifty to pull back a project if you're going to suffer more penalties and lose more money. That's not smart finances. So that's not what I'm advocating for either. So if we're going to lose money by not putting the fountain in, I'd be a fool to say that'd be a great idea. Yeah. So I'll tell you that right now. I think the idea goes back to this fact. And going forward, if I read Mr. Redmond's letter, neither the city of Cranston nor St. Mary's Church had the money to put a fountain there. Right now, you just told me St. Mary's doesn't have the money to put a fountain there. And I'm telling you right now, if we hadn't paid for it already, we don't have the money either.
I agree with you, Mr. President. I agree with you.
And you said it exactly. And so and going forward, I think the only point, I think the director said almost exactly the same. We hear the message that going forward, some of the bells and whistles, we may have to cut out. All right. And that's the point I was trying to make. That's it. Not to point fingers at you or St. Mary's. There's 150 churches that don't have money for a fountain.
I did not take offense at all.
All right. That wasn't my
Council President.
intention.
I have the utmost respect for you.
really
Do I
like
still have the floor?
Okay,
Do I still have the floor?
sure.
Okay. Thank you,
Councilman
Council President.
Capabiano.
Well, thank you for allowing me to ramble. Because of that, I lost my train of thought. I was going to pick back on something that the Director Moretti said, but I lost my train of thought. But with that said, oh, I know what it was. If we did not get that grant, I do not believe we would have even started this part of the project. So that's where in. And I also want to emphasize what the Director Correa says as far as how we rely on a consultant to say what works and what don't works in the area. I mean, if he says that's what is best, he's a consultant. That's who we're paying. As far as changing the charter, I agree with that. I think we should, because I sat on the school buildings board and I asked, who the hell picked the colors of Garden City School? They're horrid. So I said, we had no choice. We had no choice. So I don't know
Okay.
about that.
For
So-
time. Words and we're gonna have to shimmy on.
Thank you.
Councilman
Madam
Trapp.
Chair, look, the revitalization of Patuxent, the revitalization of Ralph Street, revitalization of Knightsville are all pluses for the city of Cranston, both socially and economically. We all realize that. Let's not kid ourselves. The church is not going to maintain that fountain properly. We all know that. It's going to have to be maintained by the city of Cranston. So let's bite the bullet. The project has been approved several years ago. It's almost completed. In fact, it probably be completed before the feast. So like I said, we can't go back at this point in time. So it's basically a dead issue as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. I think we're going to go ahead and go to the next bullet point under this, but I'm going to be very quick on this. Council President, so sort of leads into what I think the council's asking, which, and anyone can jump in. So we would like a list of proposed construction that's going before purchasing and contracts or proposed to be out to bid for FY27, so we can take a look at that. An update on cost approvals for anything under the capital improvements line item that is going to be completed as part of taxpayer money that is going to impact our debt services. So that's what I'm looking for. Any proposed projects in 2027, FY27. Director Creo.
Yeah, through the chair, just to let you know, whatever we have for projects, it's all on the capital budget. Whatever the capital improvement program is today, those are the projects that are proposed. We don't have any bonding money right now to do any of those projects, so I'm not sure any of those are going to make it for this coming season. If we bond, the best I understand is we're not going to have bonded money through either, we have to put a bond on the election. If it gets voted in, you're not looking for anything until sometime after January. And then after that, you only have 6 months. And I'm not sure if there are any of those projects that are scheduled to go out within that period of time.
Will you keep us in the loop if anything is being proposed under those capital improvement line
Yes.
items? Thank you. Okay, I don't have anything else on that. Just we need that in the loop. Okay, moving on. The next one is me. This is the Shriners LED sign update since the last meeting for City Council. If the committee remembers, anyone who, we're all on City Council, so a number of the public came in and we discussed the illegal LED sign. There was a citation issued by the zoning enforcement officer, and I'm going to do updates until we have a final on this. Director Nzuli will be giving us an update on happenings since that last City Council meeting.
Thank you. Per Stan Peichel in the Inspections Department, the head of inspections, the Shriners sign, they have had 2 notices sent, and on, it was yesterday, he recorded a municipal court summons. So they will be summoned to municipal court.
Okay, do we have a date for that? Usually they give you a date. No, not yet.
He did not give me a date because he said, I am recording a municipal court summons, so he didn't contact me after he did it, so I didn't get a date.
Will you please get an update on that? And then can I get an update from the solicitor how that will move forward with municipal court?
I was reading about the pool legislation, which is coming up next. Could you just repeat that for me, please?
So essentially, the inspection services issued a citation for an illegal LED sign that was issued. There've been 2 notices issued and there's been no response. It sounds like they have requested a date with municipal court. Who will be representing inspection services on behalf of the city, and how do you anticipate that timeline moving forward?
It's Steve Marcella usually handles municipal court violations. And I mean, I don't have any personal knowledge of where that stands. I mean, generally I can tell you if they obtained counsel, if they probably entered a denial and requested a hearing. That could take, truthfully, that could take a while. unless the court gives it an expedited type of hearing. And I have no way of knowing that at this point.
Okay, so while,
Yeah, I mean, well, they have a certain number of days to answer. It's usually in the vicinity of 20 days, but when they get cited, they're given a court date. The court date should be on the summons. They're to appear on that date. But then at that point in time, the judge is going to give them another date to come back. And depending on how things proceed, that'll be a pretrial conference. They'll discuss issues. It all depends on how, if they really want to fight this, put it that way, or if they're just going to comply. If they want to put up a fight, honestly, this could take months if they really want to put up a fight. Just being honest with you.
I do understand that every now and then, so I get it. Councilman Bonanno, Councilman Ritz.
Thank you. Through the chair, I don't know if this is directed at Attorney Verdecchio or maybe Director Renzulli. While the litigation, for lack of a better term, while the municipal court procedure is going on, can they operate the sign, or can the city inspection say shut it off until further notice?
The only
Yeah.
A city inspector can only issue a cease and desist. Okay, to enforce a cease and desist, you need court authorization, whether it's a municipal court or the Superior Court. We've been through this with the
Right,
licensing,
yeah.
with the alcohol licensing. So you can issue all the cease and desists that you want and have all the show cause hearings that you want. But at the end of the day, unless a court of law orders them to cease and desist, I mean, they're in violation, don't get me wrong. They'll be facing daily fines. They'd be foolish to do it, but I don't know what their intentions are.
All right.
Because you
Okay.
can seek an injunction in court.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
I don't know who's listening or if any of these folks here are for that particular sign, but I know for a fact that at this point in the city of Cranston, no LED sign can go up unless it's approved by zoning. Every single one is a variance. And I only know that, like I said, because I was on the zoning board for so long. So, they even, so if, I don't see how they win. I really don't. It just might take a while, and I'd be hopeful that they would at least shut the sign off, whether they're told to or not, while it's going on.
So one of my questions is, could they, I'm pretty sure this is true, they can simultaneously go to municipal court and seek an injunction in Superior Court.
When you say they, are you referring to code enforcement or are you
Yeah,
the city in
well,
general?
Well, basically,
That's
code
something I
enforcement would
handle
have to
ultimately.
request, get authorization from the administration. This is what I
Right.
assume the
Yeah, I
process
mean-
is, for city council to go to Superior Court to seek an injunction.
Yeah, I mean, if my boss, Chris Malay, gives me the authorization, just like I did with Safety Services, to go to court to get the injunction, then I would go.
I'm gonna let you go, Councilman Ritz.
I just had a comment. I went to an event at Rhodes last week, and that sign is bright. I actually drove back around and stopped, and you can see it reflecting in the windows of the residents there. It's significantly intrusive there, to say the least. So I just wanted to share that and applaud Councilwoman Graziano for staying on this, because this does impact that neighborhood. If you can see it reflecting in the windows, it's bad. Thank you.
All residents over there. Thank you, Councilman Ritz. Councilman Andahar?
Councilwoman, I mean, the Shriners is a very reputable organization. They're very charitable. They are a staple in Patuxent Village. So, but it's your area. So whatever you decide to do, I will support you.
I support the Shriners and their goals and being part of the community, but I think being part of the community is respecting the community. And we have had multiple complaints about it. This is a historic area. It absolutely does not go with our area. And there's residents there and it shines into their houses. I promise I will stay on this. And I can make a formal request, but I would like to hear if the inspector could reach out to the administration and request to go to Superior Court and seek an injunction.
I just told the inspections that, and they also have not received a date. They sent a summons over. They don't have a date, just so you know.
For municipal court.
No, I'm telling you both things. I said they sent over a summons but have not received a date. And
Okay.
I also told them about the injunction.
Okay, great. Thank you. Perfect, perfect, great. Okay. And we'll stay in the loop. Okay, next up for our long meeting, Councilman Ritz. This is for residential pool rentals and a discussion of current laws and possible solutions for resident complaints.
Yeah, if you-
I
if
know we'll
you-
get right into it. I think everyone's aware of the.
If you
the
like,
situation.
Councilman, I'll
Correct.
jump right into it because I think I know what you're looking for. So just quickly, pools, private pools are regulated. There's actually state laws and there's Department of Health regulations. Now, private pools are defined as pools that are part and parcel of a residential home. And they're for the use of immediate family, friends, and invitees, okay? Those do not require any type of license, obviously. However, the situation you're describing is a different matter. In my opinion, I believe there are two major issues with this. Number one, you have a zoning issue, because it seems to me this is a commercial type of enterprise that's being taken place in a residential zone. So number one, right off the bat, it seems to me the code enforcement would have the ability to cite them for operating a business in a residential zone. That's number one. Number two, if they're truly operating this as rental, and as I said, as a commercial enterprise, then the Department of Health requires them to be licensed. So now they would be in violation of Department of Health regulations. So that's the general framework. I was actually surprised. I wasn't aware that the general laws, it's under Title 23, actually mention private pools and how they're exempt from licensing requirements. But the difficulty becomes, when does it cross the line from private to, I mean, mini Budlong pools? But I would just say this, I throw this out there as a final comment. I know you're aware of the situation. I don't know how you became aware of it, but the proof here would be, to me, difficult to obtain in the absence of evidence of payments, of advertisements on social media saying, you know, come on over for rent my pool for an hour for $50 or something. It's the
So
proof, I
almost-
think, would be kind of difficult.
It's almost all of them, and it extended out to other wards. Some folks reached out. from Ward
Swimify?
5 Is Swimly.
Swimly,
is the
yes.
only app
I
that
read
does
about that.
this, And they advertise.
And they're
it.
on that?
They're on that. All these pools are rented
Wow.
through Swimly. We had reached out to them about being a good neighbor. And these are, I mean, wild parties. I mean, 50 cars. I've gone by a few. of them.
Really?
Strobe lights, DJs.
That's
And it's
clearly.
one night after another. So I do agree with you, and that was gonna be my question with the Department of Health. There has to be some regulation of who.
Yeah, if it's that out of control, the one you're talking about, I think the Department of Health should probably be notified. Because, you know, they have more clout, obviously. I mean, they got the state behind them. Instead of us sending, you know, code enforcement for a $50 a day fine. Not that we shouldn't do that, but I'm just saying Department of Health in that situation, I think would probably take an interest. So
What would the next step be?
if you give me the information, the detailed information, I'll draft a letter to the Department of Health on behalf of the committee and on behalf of the city saying, you know, look, this has come to our attention. What response we'll get, I don't know, but I can try.
It's a great step. I think it really shows that we're helping.
And-
It's a growing.
And you know what, if that fails, again, there's always Superior Court.
This is great information. Councilman Bonanno.
Yes, thank you. I volunteered myself, Councilman Ritz and Councilman Andahar to be deputized by code enforcement to attend some of these events, to witness them. And we will take some videos and gather some evidence for you. So just that's out there if you need it.
Let's just rent them, that's what we.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like Councilman Ritz wants to keep this on the list and keep running it until we hear back. Thank you. Anyone else? Please no. Did I say that out loud? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Is there a second? Yes. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, great. We're adjourned 8:30.
There we go, one more.
To call the ordinance meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, July 1st, and it is 8:39 PM. Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilwoman Graziano?
Present.
Councilman Andujar?
Present.
Councilwoman Vaziri?
Present.
Councilman Campapiano?
Present.
Councilman Banano?
Here.
Council Vice President Haroyan?
Present.
Council President Wall?
All right, we have a quorum. Next, no, we don't need approval of minutes. Is there any objection for me to take in the meeting out of order? Seeing none, we are taking the meeting out of order. At this time, I would like to open up for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on docketed items only? Please step up to the microphone. You have 4 minutes. State your name and address.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Stephen Fries, 107 Garden Hills Drive, President of the Cranston Plan Commission. I'm sorry I could not be here for last month's meeting. I had a church event, and the church event had nothing to do with fountains. So first of all, I'm not going to repeat my letter. You've all read it who want to read it. But I want to talk about a few things that I heard that I want to respond to. First, density. Questions were asked about density. I want to be as clear as possible. When you put 2 families on a 4,000 square foot lot, that's about 20 units an acre. That's the math. That is double the density under the future land use map. That is higher than the densities of any of our neighborhoods. Second, this will allow building on lots that are 4,000 square feet. 11 of our 13 neighborhoods in the B1 zones have lot sizes, the median lot sizes is more than 4,000 feet. So you're talking about higher density and smaller lot sizes. And I will note this, density has a lot of issues with it. Many of you know that. I'm not trying to be difficult about maybe reductions there, but when I look at towns like Johnston, Ward, our neighbors, their lot size minimums are not 6,000 for a single, 8,000 for a 2-family. It's 7,000 for a single, 8,500 for a 2-family. Warwick is 7,000 for a single and 10,500 for a 2-family. So we are not out of line with our neighbors. We're actually more permissive of building on small lots than our neighbors. Second, fiscal impact. There was some discussion, this is a net revenue positive. Look, you got to look at not just the revenue, you got to look at the cost. We all know that housing means children. The question is how many children? If you build 400 homes, that's going to be about 200 kids. That's at least $2 million, okay? So the net revenue you'll get from these homes will be offset by the cost of the education. Never mind if you're going to bring 200 more kids into the eastern section of the city, I question whether or not you want to close down these schools that they were talking about to replenish the rainy day fund. Third, 3,000 square foot. Can you build a 2-family on a 3,000 square foot in Providence and have adequate parking? Yes, for Providence purposes, you can. I don't think it's realistic for Cranston for these reasons. We have an on-street parking ban in the evenings. Most families have 2 breadwinners who have cars now. I'm not sure our parking rules are adequate for the amount of parking on 1 and 2 families in Cranston. Never mind Providence. Experts. By the way, when you let me know if I have 1 minute, just do this thing. Okay, so experts. I hear a lot like, listen to the experts, listen to the experts. I have a lot of experts in my life. I do a lot of work with experts. Smart people, but they all have slants and views. Sometimes they have slants and views based on money. I'm a developer's expert, so I'm going to find in favor of this. I work for a nonprofit that supports housing. Guess what? I'm going to be in favor of this. Or if I'm staff that wants less work, maybe I'm going to be in favor of this. My personal view is that I'm not always in favor of housing everywhere and anywhere, but I am in favor of housing in the right amounts and right locations, and I've supported hundreds of units across the city in my tenure as planning chair and as a member. Next, there was allegations of racism. Whenever I hear allegations of racism, that's because they have no better way to rebut the merits of the arguments. It's the same thing like on my friends on the right, when they don't know how to respond to something, they just say, communism. Same thing. Look, being concerned about stormwater and parking is not being a bigot. It's being realistic. Then there was this comment, and I'm almost finished, and I don't usually do this except someone brought me up. So they said, councilman said, this will take away power from the chairman. If I was interested in power, I would have spent the last few years kissing the president's butt in the White House and his cronies. Okay? That's not who I am. As I told the councilman back in March, And he brought this up, a concern, this would reduce my power. I said, I don't care. I just do what I think is right, and you guys do whatever you're gonna do. So it's not about power for me. It's about what I think is best for these neighborhoods under our rules and other stuff. What I think this is about is that, in part, is that the commission voted against development on Lake Street at the time in February. It was a 3-3 vote. And I gave it a couple of chances and it still came back. This development was very controversial because it was going to be a two-story, basically doubling the density of that area, of that particular project, where there's already a two-family on it. And the neighbors came out in force and showed me pictures of stormwater, of garbage cans flowing into Speckle Pond. And they say, this is not the right place to put a two-family building. The guy already has a two-family in that lot for 10,000 square feet. So I know the council was supportive of it. If you guys want to change the rules for this project on Lake Street, that's your business. That is your business. If you want to make a special rule for Lake Street, that is also your business. But you are going to be messing around with a lot of neighborhoods for Lake Street. That's my opinion. And I would not have brought that up if we had just focused on the fact that I'm not. When I say I'm not doing something for power, I'm not. Thank you. If you have any questions, you talk to me. I'm here.
Thank you. Is anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on docketed items only? Please come up, name and address, please.
Robert Murray, 75 Debbie Drive, Cranston. I'm here again to speak in opposition to ordinances 42603 and 42604. I'm not sure what has changed in the last 3 weeks, but I wanted to follow up on some of the comments and the sales presentation by the chair at the last meeting. After I sat down last month and the public hearing was closed, the chairman took a shot at me and said my opposition to these ordinances was based on, and I quote, not going to benefit from this anymore if they pass. Yes, I am a land use attorney, and I do sometimes represent applicants seeking zoning relief from our merger provisions. But my practice is not dependent on such work. In fact, 2 or 3 times a month, I will discourage someone from pursuing an application because I think it is too extreme in the relief they may need. So let's not paint my legitimate concerns for these ordinances anything more than legislation that will only benefit real estate speculators. Last month, even some of the committee members acknowledged that these ordinances are not going to open the floodgates for affordable housing units or homes for grandma. The lots will be for developers and flippers, much like the chairman explained last month, the business he's in. You may remember his slide of the multifamily housing unit he's building on 2,500 square feet with no parking in Providence. Is no one here questioning if that is the way we want Cranston to develop? So if we're going to bless big development on small lots, what is our benefit? The sponsor waived the bright, shiny prospect last month of revenue for all. These ordinances are the answer to all our prayers and will solve all our financial challenges. The revenue numbers flashed in front of you are questionable, but more importantly, totally ignore the other half of the equation. What about the expense side and cost of services to accommodate these new housing units? What about the absorption rate of development? Any credible fiscal analysis I've ever been involved in looks at the city and school expense side and assigns a per housing unit cost to the proposed developments. We produced reports at the Printworks and Knights Corner project by qualified experts who took into consideration fees and tax generation for these developments. I can't even do this with these ordinances because I don't have the fixed number of units being built, and I cannot legitimately project a real number of their value for tax generation purposes. The sponsor questioned the numbers, questioned the sponsors, the numbers provided by our well-respected tax assessor because they didn't meet his message. I say again, these ordinances are nothing more than bonanzas for real estate speculators and developers. Narrow lots, no on-site parking, neighborhood congestion. Respectfully, the Andover vision is not what we should embrace for Cranston. You know that, and we need you to follow your common sense. Hit the brakes tonight and say no to things like 2-family houses on 4,000 square foot lots by right. This unmerger provision ordinance for 3,200 square foot lots in the first ordinance will not even comply with the zoning requirements in the second ordinance. Leave the checks and balances system in place. There was legitimate reluctance 3 weeks ago. I've heard nothing yet tonight that should make us feel any better. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on docketed items only? Seeing none. Anyone online?
There is no public comment online.
All right, no public comment. At this time, I'd like to close public comment. Moving on to committee business matters carried over. Let's start with ordinance 5-2601, ordinance amendment of Title 8, Chapter 8, Section 200, City of Cranston Code of Ordinances 2005, entitled Outdoor Fires, sponsored by Councilwoman, Vice President Councilwoman Haroyan. The floor is yours.
As I've said in the past, the fire department asked for this. They would like to be able to monitor propane, natural gas, any kind of fire pits, also outdoor heaters for our safeties. They also would like it in the ordinance, which I believe it was added, that it states that these are safe in the United States, that they're not equipment bought off the internet that could have been manufactured out of the country, that is not fire safe here under our regulations. As we all have visited recent restaurants and have seen these outdoor fire pits without inspections, that is not safe for us. This is something the fire department realizes is going on, and they would like the ability to inspect them for the restaurant owner's safety, for the patrons, and for all of us. Involving natural gas or propane or anything like that should be something the fire department is aware of, so they know what they're dealing with in situations. I'm asking for your full support tonight.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Campabiano.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank Councilwoman Haroyan for putting this forward. I too see those huge towers, and who knows if they're safe and people involved. So I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor, and thank you for bringing this forward.
Councilman Bonanno.
Thank you. I will be in full support of this. I thank Councilwoman Haroyan and the fire department for their indulgence. I didn't mean to delay it by a month. I thought we could just yeah, I mean, that wasn't my intention to delay it for a month. I think it was great, and I'm glad that we added what I said, and I too would like to be added as a co-sponsor, if the sponsor. Thank you.
Councilwoman Vaziri.
I also think that this ordinance is great and would like to be added as a co-sponsor as well.
Mayor Trafficante. Would like to be added. Councilman Ritz.
You could add me also.
Mr. President, I believe you're on it already. I guess the whole council will be on this. So with that, clerk may call the roll.
Councilman Graziano?
Yes.
Councilman Andujar?
Yes.
Councilman Vaziri?
Yes.
Councilman Campapiano? Councilman Bonanno?
Yes.
Council Vice President Haroyan? Council President Wall?
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Thank-
Moving on to ordinance 4-2603, ordinance amendment of chapter 17, Code of Ordinances of City of Cranston as amended, entitled zoning. This is the unmerged one. So I'm the sponsor of this, and I really want to thank everybody's public comment, everybody that sent letters. Oh, and I believe Ms. McFarland sent a letter, and so I would like to entertain a motion to enter that into the record.
Motion to entertain Ms. McFarland's letter into the record.
Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilwoman Graziano?
Yes.
Councilman Andujar?
Yes.
Councilwoman Vaziri? Councilman Campapiano? Councilman Bonanno?
Yes.
Councilwoman Haroyan? Council President Wall?
Yes.
All right, letters into the record. So back to what I was saying. First, I want to thank everybody that said something, that had their opinion in this. I really want to thank President Frias. I mean, we're really, really extremely lucky in Cranston to have somebody with that talent. Stand-up gentleman, always answers the call. But the night street is what opened up my eyes on this whole unmerged thing, and I just saw an opportunity. And I don't want to do this. I mean, everybody wants their white picket fence and a huge yard, and they want to play with the dog, and Jose wants to hang around with Rico, and Jessica wants to hang around with Sophie. So I mean, it's the Cranston way. But at the same time, we're in a budget crunch. Mr. Murray, another land use attorney, one of the best in the state, the best in Cranston, very talented. And I take his opinion, but the problem is right now we're in a situation where we need money. And yeah, you know what, the schools, every year we're gonna have to fund them and the schools are gonna grow either way we look at it. So I was gonna present an amendment today. And my amendment, if you could put that slide up, Tom. And Mr. Murray, Mr. Fries, everybody could go against it, but these are my numbers. There's 114 unmerged lots that are potential in Ward 3. I was gonna recommend $100 pre-application fee in planning. That was gonna raise 11,400. An actual application fee to unmerge of 1,500, that would raise 171,000. Building permits are estimated around 9,000, so that was gonna bring another $1 million into the city, just inspections and standard, for a total of 1.7, almost 1.8. That was just gonna be for the amendment for Ward 3. Now, Mr. Solicitor, if you could come up, I believe I can't do this. So at this time, I'm gonna let him speak and then I'm gonna entertain him. I'm gonna wanna continue this.
Yeah, if my understanding is that you sort of wanted to make this exclusive to one ward of the city. Zoning is got to be townwide. You can't pigeonhole like that. Now, there are such things as overlay districts. I would just add that usually with overlay districts, there has to be an underlying purpose. For instance, a floodplain, historic district, airport district. So I'm not suggesting thumbs up or thumbs down on what the next submission will be. I just point that out, that if you're thinking of coming back with an overlay district, that just be aware that usually those are reserved for some type of specific purpose. But as far as trying to just have one ward be subject to a particular type of zoning will not fly. Zoning has to be townwide. You can have classifications, you can change those all you want, but they have to apply equally to everyone. So
thank you. And I also want to know for the record that yes, I am a developer, and yes, the house that I'm building on 2,500 square foot lot does have parking for 4 cars. So I just want to put that on the record. But at this time, I did hire some consultants. We are working on an overlay district that I will be presenting at the next meeting. So at this time, I would like to continue this.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Campobiano.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And I understand where you're going with this, and I appreciate your efforts. I would like to see if we can get, we're hearing two sides here about the income we would be getting from this. I'd like to see some type of physical note to this. I mean, if we get a stop sign, it's required. This is something that could change the face of Cranston. So this is probably one of the most significant things we've had to vote on in quite a while. I would like to see some type of official physical note tied to this. I've asked the school superintendent, and she gave me back the information about each student is $19,500 to send a student to school. So if I do the math right and you put in a house and you're getting $6,000, $7,000 a year in taxes, it's going to be eaten up pretty quick. And the next one you did it. So I'd like to see something tangible that we can look at. Also, I understand Councilman Graziano had flood issues. So maybe those two things come forward before we can make an educated decision on such a significant move. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilwoman Graziano.
Thank you. Yeah, I've done some research and I just don't feel like my questions have been answered. So number one is parking. Number two is we need a stormwater ordinance, have one. And then my other question I will reserve for the next one. So I still need parking and stormwater.
Is there anyone else? Administration would like to say something? Councilman Banana.
On its face, I'm not against these. I would be more comfortable when we get to that point. I'm in favor of continuing it. For a 4,000 and maybe 8,000 square foot lot for a single family, 4,000, 8,000 for a 2-family. Just want to throw that out there as you're developing that. That's where my comfort level is at. I think 3,200, while it's possible, is tight. I forgot what the other one was, but I think it's 4,000 or 5,000. Yeah, I think that's also tight. So I would like to see, maybe 4 and 5 little bit more wiggle room for the parking especially. So just, I want to throw that out there as sort of my comfort level. Thank you.
Anyone else? In ending, I just want to, Director?
I just want to say that in response to Councilman Piano's request, I don't know exactly how a fiscal note would be developed because according to the tax assessor, when figuring potential increases in value based on the proposed ordinances, we must consider that the lot sizes will be smaller and the allowed buildings will also be smaller based on available land coverage. There are many variables that we will consider when valuing property, such as lot size, number of bedrooms, baths, and any other amenity that may be present. Also, we have to consider when these projects may be built. So he was not comfortable giving an actual number, so I don't know otherwise how you would secure that. So I don't want there to be expectations that the administration cannot fulfill. Thank you.
Councilman Campabiano.
I understand his concerns. But like I said before, this is a significant change. I mean, it could backfire and go the other way. And I mean, if it's all depends on how much the houses are worth, if they're going to be affordable housing, if there's children in there. It's tough to make a decision of this magnitude without any of the information that we need. So I don't know how we're going to get that information, but I like to have at least something to base my vote on.
Anyone else? Seeing none, clerk, please take a roll.
This is a vote to continue. Councilwoman Graziano?
Yeah.
Councilman Andujar?
Yes.
Councilman Baziri? Councilman Campapiano? Councilman Bonanno?
Yes.
Council Vice President Haroyan? Council President Wall?
Yes.
All right, moving on to ordinance 4-2604, ordinance and amendment of chapter 17, Code of the City of Cranston as amended entitled zoning. This is the 4,000 square foot lot. Same issue as one before this. I will be entertaining a motion to continue.
Motion to continue.
Any discussion? Councilwoman Graziano?
You. I would just like a rationale, and I don't know if this is planning department or from you, Councilman. What was the original rationale for 6,000 square feet and 8,000 square feet and how that came to be initially in the zoning table?
So basically, I'm the one that crafted this up. And if you look at a lot of the lots in Cranston, they're 8,000 square feet. And I believe in my ward, the majority are in my ward, and you could literally split those lots into two. So the 6,000 won't work because you won't be able to get two houses. Like I said, listen, at the end of the day, I'm trying to create revenue. We all got the reports. We're still trending 10, almost $11 million. So we all need to start figuring out how to create revenue. And this is what I'm doing. So at the end of the day, when I knock on the door, they're going to say, what are you doing? And I'm going to say, well, I did this and I did that and I did this. So we all need to start figuring out how we're going to create revenue to help the city instead of just doing stop signs. So at this time, I would like to I already entertained the motion to continue. We're at discussion. Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilwoman Graziano?
Yes.
Councilman Andujar?
Yes.
Councilwoman Baziri? Councilman Campapiano? Councilman Bonanno?
Yes.
Council Vice President Haroyan? Council President Wall?
Yes.
All right, moving on to new matters before the city council. Ordinance 61501, ordinance and amendment of Title 10, Chapter 12, Section 130 of the Cranston Code of Ordinances is titled Right Turns at Certain Red Lights, sponsored by Councilman Bonanno. The floor is yours, sir.
Yes, thank you. I want to make this quick. I forgot what month it was. I want to say November, September, I don't know. We debated and we ultimately passed a no right turn on red at Cranston Street at Gansett Avenue it was a request of crossing guards that we did it for. Initially, I wanted to put some times in there and there were some questions about that, whether or not it was going to be too confusing. So ultimately, the council, through discussion, decided we would try it or pass it with no times. Through the administration, the police chief reached out. He wrote a very detailed email about why having it all the time wasn't really working out. And if you want, I can give you the details of that, but that was the gist of the email. So during the budget hearing, we kind of talked in the corner and I said, well, can we do this as a compromise to ease some issues with the neighborhood, as well as ease some of the traffic during the day and still keep the kids and the crossing guards safe. So this is the compromise that we came up with. From the hours of 7 to 8:30 a.m. and 2 to 3:30 p.m. That encompasses kids walking to Bain as well as kids walking to perhaps Stadium School, both ways, to and from school. So, and if there's still traffic issues, I guess we'll revisit it later. But I think this will eradicate most of the problems with the stacking up of cars as well as cars cutting through the neighborhood to avoid the no right turn on red.
Great. May I entertain a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Discussion, Councilman Campobiano.
I want to thank you. I thank Councilman Bonanno for looking into this. I waited at that red light and you were correct. I don't know if we can add school days to that sign. Can you check with the colonel or the police department or the administration and see if that's a thing? Because all summer we can go right turn on red if we want to.
If I may, through the chair,
Sorry.
I would be fine if you want to amend it that way, that's fine. And if the chief has a problem, he can let me know between now and the council meeting. And then if we have to, we'll send it back. If not, we'll just keep it going forward. But if you
I
want to
would,
amend for that, I encourage you to motion for it. I have no problem.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we amend it to say.
So I
School
will
days.
withdraw my motion to approve. You sure?
No, you can
Recommend.
still, you don't have to. you
All
can
right, so
amend
there's
it.
an amendment on the floor to add
School days.
school days only on the sign.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
So I'll add the words on school days after this on the,
So you want to say the line?
on line 24.
So
I
on
think
line
the verbiage
24,
can
what
be
is it going
done
to
by the
read?
traffic engineer.
School days only, does that work?
Sounds
On
good to
line
me.
24. All right, so let's repeat this thing so it's clean. There's a motion on the floor to amend by Councilman Campobiano, seconded by Councilman Vaziri. The amendment is as follows. On line 24, read it.
So line 20, well, I'll read 23 and 24. Intersection of Cranston Street at Gansett Avenue, southbound onto Cranston Street from the hours of 7 to 8:30 a.m. and 2 to 3:30 p.m. on school days only.
Any discussion? Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilwoman Graziano?
Yes.
Councilman Andujar?
Yes.
Councilwoman Vaziri?
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano? Councilman Bonanno?
Yes.
Council Vice President Haroyan?
Yes.
Council President Wall?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, may I entertain a motion to approve the amendment?
So moved.
Can,
Any discussion? Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilwoman Graziano?
yes.
Councilman Andujar?
Yes.
Councilwoman Vaziri?
Yes.
Councilman Campopiano? Councilman Bonanno?
Yes.
Council Vice President Haroyan?
Yes.
Council President Wall?
Yes.
May I
Now-
make a request through the chair? To Director Ronzulli, I want to make sure I don't step on anyone's toes, but do you mind reaching out to the police chief with the amended version to make sure it's amenable to him before we go to the next council meeting? Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so let's do this over. And now may I entertain a motion to approve
So moved.
as amended.
You already did it.
Already did it? So we're good. All right. We're not moving on. Ordinance 61502, ordinance and amendment of Title 10, Chapter 32, Section 20 of the City of Cranston Code of Ordinances 2005 entitled Stop Intersections enumerated by Councilwoman Graziano. Floor is
Thank you.
yours.
Received a number of concerned residents reached out to me in Armington. And Armington Ave runs from Broad Street to Narragansett Boulevard. And there is a T Street called Marcy Street, and that street heads down to the elementary school of Edgewood Highland, where there's lots of kids walking over there. And at that T Street of Marcy and Armington, there's no stop sign. However, there is another preceding stop sign at Patuxent Avenue in Armington. That's actually not that far away. So originally I had put this request in through the administration's office to do a number of things. First of all, get the police to weigh in, which, that did happen. And then also to get a traffic study completed, which I did review for speeding. The big concern was, elementary children walking over there and speeding. But the police did note that before the traffic study was completed, that they didn't initially think it would hurt installing sign, and that likely the speeding study or would result in a notation that there was actually not that much speeding, which I reviewed the traffic studies and there really wasn't that much speeding. I do have a little bit of pause based on the distance from Marcy Street to Patuxent Avenue and the two stop signs in close proximity. So I would like to spend a little bit more time with this. So I'm actually going to look for a continuance.
Motion to
So moved.
continue.
Any discussion? Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilwoman Graziano?
Yes.
Councilman Andujar?
Yes.
Councilwoman Baziri? Councilman Campapiano? Councilman Banano?
Yes.
Council Vice President Horoyan?
Yes.
Council President Wall?
Yes.
All right, that's continued. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? All those, all right, we're adjourned at 9:09.
Mamma mia.